here in just one moment. All right, thank you everyone, and welcome back from lunch. Again, I want to thank Gulf Power for providing that lunch for us. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So to start off this afternoon session, actually before we get into the SBIR proposal tips, we are first going to have Lori Moncrief, who is the Executive Director of DEFENSEWERX, sort of the parent company over the Doodle Institute, talk a little bit about the DEFENSEWERX network and kind of explain a little bit more about all these different institute and innovation hubs. So, Lori.
Is this on? Yeah, okay. Thanks so much for all of you coming, and I just wanted to slide in here on the agenda just for clarifications purposes because everybody seemed somewhat confused about who we are and how we're organized. And I'm going to be doing a presentation at the very end that'll get into even more detail. But for discussion purposes, DEFENSEWERX, which is headquartered actually in the back of this facility, is kind of our corporate headquarters, so to speak. And we started out as Doolittle Institute with just the one location here and then a location down in Tampa by the name of SoftWorks. But now we've grown about 400% and expanded so greatly that we've had to develop a new business model, so to speak. So I just wanted to give clarification. So corporate headquarters is DEFENSEWERX. That's the overall company. Down in Tampa, we have SoftWorks, and that's funded by Special Operations Forces, SOCOM, and that's in Tampa, Florida. Here is Doolittle Institute, AFRL RW Munitions Directorate. And then as far as AFWERX goes, yet another confusion. There is an AFWERX corporate that is not us. That is Big Air Force A58. They have several locations, but we have the main hub, which is 28,000 square feet in Las Vegas. So we manage AFWERX Vegas only. So that if you see AFWERX corporate, don't assume that that's us. That's probably A58 Air Force, but we are Las Vegas AFWERX. And then MGMWERX is Montgomery, Alabama, working with Air University. And we'll have a new facility coming in the near term with Army Corps, named TBD, haven't figured it out yet, and Homeland Security will also be involved with that. So I hope I didn't make it clear as mud, but there's a corporate headquarters. Each of these different names and locations are kind of different programs, but they're all under the same company. So anyway, anybody have any questions? Did that help clarify? Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lori. All right. Really quickly before I introduce our next speaker, I just wanted to let everyone know, I think some of you might have come in that weren't here in the morning. Not only will we be posting the slides of most of the presenters, so far all of the presenters have come up to me and said, or all of the presenters so far have come up and said that they will allow us to post their slides. So those will be available on the Doolittle Institute website, so don't worry about taking pictures or scrambling to write notes down. Also, you might have noticed a couple of the cameras in the back and a camera on the side here. We are live streaming this on our YouTube channel, and we will have all of the videos posted on our YouTube channel so you can go back and watch them and, of course, advertise them for those of you that are speaking and show your speaking engagements. So again, don't worry about recording or writing every single little thing down. Finally, with that, sorry to a couple of different announcements before we bring up our next speaker, who is going to be talking about SBIR and STTR proposal tips, and this is Ayesha Haider, and she is with the Small Business Development Center at UWF. So, Ayesha.
Business consultant with the Small Business Development Center Network office in Fort Walton Beach, and I'm here to talk to you today about writing a winning SBIR STTR proposal. Before we get started, there are some administrative items that I'd like to go over with you. I know we've just gotten back from lunch, So if you did turn your cell phone back on or turn up the volume, please now do take the time to put your cell phone on silent or turn it off so as not to disrupt the learning experience of the audience. Questions and discussion is highly encouraged, so please feel free to raise your hand at any point during this presentation and ask me for further clarification if required. In the interest of saving some trees, I have not printed out a copy of this PowerPoint, and you can view it either on the Doolittle website later on, or you can email me and I can send you a PDF version. Your feedback is greatly appreciated, especially if you have applied for SBIR STTR proposals. I would love to hear about your experiences. All right, so we do have stakeholders from a variety of different backgrounds here today, so I did want to start out by giving you guys some background about the SBIR STTR program, what it's intended for, and kind of how it works. So the Small Business Innovation Research Program, which you probably know better by the acronym SBIR, was established in 1982 with the purpose of stimulating technological innovation, meeting federal research and development needs, increasing private sector commercialization of innovations derived from federal research and development funding, and funding for SBIR solicitations is dispersed in the form of grants. Next, we have the Small Business Technology Transfer Program, or STTR, and this was actually established in 1992 with the same purpose, to stimulate technological innovation, but it's slightly different than SBIR in that it aims to foster tech transfer through cooperative research and development between small businesses and research institutions such as universities and labs. STTR was also aimed at increasing private sector commercializations of innovations derived from federal research and development, and unlike SBIR, STTR funds are dispersed in the form of contracts. There are 11 agencies in total that participate in the SBIR STTR programs. All of these agencies offer the SBIR track, and only 5 offer STTR. The annual agency SBIR STTR budgets range from around $8 million to over $1 billion, and total annual set-asides for both programs, for SBIR ranges in about the $2 billion range, and for STTR it's slightly lower at approximately $300 million. The SBIR STTR program is structured into 3 phases that range from the initial research and development phase all the way through to commercialization. And these are the agencies that participate in this program. The Small Business Administration, or the SBA, is the coordinating agency, and that's kind of where we come in. So to give you an idea of how much funding these participating agencies set aside for SBIR STTR proposals, I have a list here of funding by agency from the year 2015. As you can see, the Department of Defense has the highest budget at over $1 billion, and the US Department of Agriculture has the smallest at approximately $4.2 million. The amount of funding set aside each year does vary, and it also does vary by agency. So it's important for you to know, A, the different kinds of agencies that offer this funding opportunity, and B, the amount of funding that they set aside for it. So usually when you talk about SBIR or STTR, they're lumped up together into this term, but there are actually differences between the two, and it's important for you as a small business to understand these differences. So I'll go over some of these with you. The SBIR permits your partnering with another organization or research institute. However, the STTR requires it. So it requires for you to partner with a university or other nonprofit research institute. With regards to the principal investigator, the SBIR requires that the principal investigator be employed with the small business concern more than 50% of the time, whereas with STTR, the principal investigator may be employed by either the research institution partner or the small business. So where this applies to you is, for example, if you are a professor who works at a university and you have this great idea that you would like to see to fruition, but you don't want to leave your job and start a small business, under the STTR program, you may be allowed to continue that research with the institution as your partner without having to give up your job. With regard to the program size, as I mentioned earlier, the SBIR has a budget of approximately $2.25 billion in 2015, and the STTR had a funding program of about $296 million. Something else that's important to note in the differences between SBIR and STTR, the SBIR does allow for the small business concern to be majority owned by a venture capital ownership, by a venture capital firm, whereas the STTR does not allow a VC to have any stake in the company. Some additional differences between SBIR and STTR that were not covered in the previous infographic include the requirements and conditions of each solicitation will vary based on agency needs. SBIR grants generally offer more autonomy and flexibility than STTR contracts. Generally speaking, the SBIR is more geared towards new innovations, and STTR is more geared towards filling a need for a requesting agency, not necessarily through creating a new technology. STTR does deal more with classified materials, and the funding amount allotted per phase in both programs is the same, and I'll get into the details of this later on in the presentation. So this is to give you an idea of how funding is dispersed amongst the two programs. As you can see, it's pretty much 50-50 between grants and contracts, with the DoD issuing the highest number of contracts and the Department of Health and Human Services issuing funding in the amount of grants. As a small business concern, it's also very important for you to understand the differences between grant funding and contract funding. Grants generally offer a more flexible use of funds, whereas contracts mandate the use of funds based on the deliverable. With SBIR grants, the principal investigator has more flexibility in defining the scope of the work that is to be conducted, whereas with STTR contracts, the scope of work is fairly inflexible. For SBIR grants, funding is paid upfront, and therefore you have a little bit more flexibility in terms of how you develop your budget, whereas with STTR, payment is based on deliverables and milestones. For SBIR grants, you are required to present your best efforts in research. However, for STTR contracts, you are required to deliver the promised goods and services at the end of the funding term. For SBIR grants, questions and answers about solicitations are not made public, whereas for STTR contracts, questions and answers about solicitations are made public. This may be of concern to you if you have developed something new and you don't wish for it to be discussed or published in a public forum. Lastly, for SBIR grants, the application defines the scope of the work that is going to be conducted, whereas with STTR contracts, the awarding agency defines the scope of work. A lot of people that have had the pleasure of writing an SBIR STTR proposal have probably considered looking at other avenues of developing their technologies. However, there are some advantages that SBIR STTR track offers that traditional funding options do not. So the first is that if you are awarded funding through this program, the government does not own an equity stake in your company, and you, as the private investigator, maintain ownership. Adding on to that, you also have complete operational control over the company, and you decide the pace and method at which you're going to commercialize your technology. A lot of times when you have to bring in an external investor to fund your business, you have to work with their timeline and their interests. With this funding opportunity, you still are able to maintain control over your device or your innovation, your technology, and your company. Third, very important, you don't have to pay it back SBIR STTR funds. There's no loan and no interest payments. Many startup businesses struggle to find funding, and when they do find funding, they're having to make this loan payment every month without any guarantee of revenue coming in. This is something that you don't have to worry about with SBIR, STTR, and as a small business, this is a huge advantage. Banks have a hard time funding regular startups, so approaching a bank to fund an R&D venture whose feasibility has not even been determined yet is very, very difficult. So for a lot of you, SBIR, STTR might be the only avenue because other traditional ways of finding funding, such as approaching a bank, may not be open to you. Another advantage of the SBIR, STTR funding opportunities is that you and the funder, who is the government, are working towards the same objective, which is commercialization. The government doesn't want to give you money and then have you sit on your innovations. They want you to make money from them. Another protection that some agencies offer is they offer to not share your data with non-federal agencies for a period of up to 4 to 5 years after completion of the project. This is, of course, in addition to the patent protections that you already enjoy. Last but certainly not least, the SBIR, STTR programs are designed to allow inventors to hold intellectual property rights to their inventions. And for those of you that might be wondering, why is this important, I do want to spend some time talking about intellectual property. So intellectual property is a work or invention that is the result of creativity to which one has rights and for which one may apply for a patent, copyright, or trademark. There are 3 basic types of intellectual property rights, and these are patent rights, trademark rights, and copyrights. A patent is something that protects a new invention or process, and in order to be awarded a patent, the invention must be new and non-obvious. Protection generally lasts around 20 years. To give you an example of what new and non-obvious might be referring to, I have 3 examples of technologies that were awarded patents in 2015. The first is a device that prevents mobile phones from operating in a moving vehicle. The second is a device that uses satellites already in orbit to harvest solar energy, which is then sent back to Earth. And the third is a drone that is able to deliver medical supplies and personnel to areas that traditional vehicles cannot reach. So just to give you an idea of what qualifies as a technology that can be awarded a patent. Next, we have the trademark. A trademark is a word, sign, symbol, or graphic that is associated with your business, and it gives your business exclusive rights to the mark. An example of a trademark is the Google logo, which I believe in 2015 was valued at over $40 billion. So there is still value to issuing a trademark. Last, we have copyrights. Copyright protections are for original creations that are literary, musical, or choreographic works. And for those of you that are educators or some other kind of teachers, it also applies to a syllabus that you create. When it comes to research, there may be conflicts related to who owns the rights to a certain technology. A lot of times you may end up sharing these rights or having to give them over to other institutes that you've partnered with, such as universities or an investor. If an invention is created using the resources of another person or organization, they may have rights to it. If you created something when you were active duty using the military's resources, they may still have rights to it. So it's important to know about these distinctions. SBIR STTR is designed to let inventors keep their inventions, and as I mentioned earlier, it also allows them to control the commercialization of those inventions. I do recommend you discuss your innovation with a patent attorney before sharing your idea or applying for an SBIR STTR solicitation. All right, so getting back to SBIR STTR, I mentioned earlier that this is basically a 3-phase process. Phase 1 consists of a proof of concept or feasibility study, and it's meant to evaluate the scientific and technical merit and commercial potential of an idea or technology. It lasts between 6 to 12 months, and funding can be allotted up to $150,000. In phase 2, you basically expand on phase 1 research, and at the end of phase 2, most solicitations require for you to have a working prototype. Award funding for phase 2 can go up to $1 million, and something important to note about phase 2 is that in order to qualify for this award, you have to have successfully won a phase 1 award. Next, we have phase 3, which is the commercialization stage. At this stage, the thought process is that your technology or invention is at the stage where it can now be introduced and sold to the mass market. It makes use of non-SBIR STTR funds, and awardees should expect to use private sector funds to achieve phase 3 commercialization. For STTR contracts, a lot of times, phase 3 commercialization involves the government taking you on as a contractor and making use of your invention or technology through that route. So now I want to go over the SBIR STTR proposal process with you. The first thing that you're going to have to do is find a solicitation that you are interested in and that you are eligible for. Next, you're going to draft and submit a proposal. That proposal will then be evaluated, and at the last stage, if you're very lucky, you will receive an award. So a lot of times, businesses focus on the actual proposal, and I will be going over proposal writing tips and tricks with you. But before I do so, I do want to look at how to find a solicitation. There are a lot of businesses that know their invention, they know their technology, they know the application of that technology, but they don't know how to actually apply for funding through this program. So the first thing you're going to do is find a solicitation, and you're going to do this by looking at current and past solicitations. And these can be found on this website here, www.sbir.gov. Individual agencies may also have solicitations on their websites, but the SBIR website does a good job of consolidating all of these, and I think it's a better use of your time to go through that. Each agency has a different schedule for when they issue solicitations and for when they're due, so it's really important to also look at the due date of solicitations because they will vary. In searching for a solicitation, you can take two approaches. The first is to search for new or open solicitations, and the second is to search for past awards. Searching for past awards gives you an idea of the kinds of technology and the kinds of sectors that certain agencies fund. So what you can do is look at what agency has awarded, look at technologies that have received awards in the past and kind of follow the agency that gave out these awards so you can see if they issue anything in the future that applies to you. Something to be cognizant of is that when you're doing your searches, it's important to be as broad as possible in your search terminology. You're not dealing with the jargon of one agency but 11. So for example, if you are involved in drone technology, you're going to want to search for drone, but you also want to do a search for UAV, RPAS, and UAS, because that may also be applicable to you. These are all just different acronyms that are talking about basically the same device or invention. Another useful feature that this website does provide is that you can filter search results by the awarding agency, by the phase of the award, by the program, the year, and the state. And you can download the results of your search in the form of an Excel file, which makes it easier to navigate. So now I wanted to share with you some interesting innovations that I found going through the website that were awarded funding in the year 1984, and I picked 1984 because it's one of my favorite books. So we're going to look at the Air Force, the Department of Education, and the Department of Transportation. And then I'm also going to show you awards that were given out in 2017, so you can kind of see how technology has changed and evolved. So in 1984, the Air Force funded a remote sensing infrared device that accurately and in real time profiles atmospheric temperature, humidity, and refractive index. The Department of Education funded an easy-to-use automated courseware generator for teachers And this was in order to allow more benefits from computer-assisted instruction, which at the time was just starting to take off. The Department of Transportation funded a radar sensor that monitors approach lanes and provided velocity information about cars in these approach lanes. A lot of what we've talked about today has been focused on the DoD and the military applications of technology, but I just wanted to let you guys know that the SBIR STTR program does cover a broad array of subjects. So if there is another category that you fall into, there are many opportunities. Now let's look at awards issued by the same agencies in the year 2017. The Air Force funded a one-person mobile telescope mount and camera that is able to track nearly all cataloged space debris. The Department of Education funded a room-scale virtual reality lab and learning game for high school chemistry students. And the purpose of this was to teach students to solve problems using science. The Department of Transportation funded a technology to develop methods to detect and measure cruising, which is when you're driving around looking for parking, and its effects on traffic congestion. They eventually plan to develop this technology to the stage where it is able to locate parking spots for you so that you don't have to drive around and find one. So something else to note about the SBIR STTR solicitation process, some agencies, for example, the National Science Foundation, may issue a non-specific solicitation. A non-specific solicitation identifies a particular need for a product or technology, but it's open to what that technology will be. And it asks for submissions of novel ideas. If you do find a solicitation that you're interested in, it's really important to read it through carefully and understand the following things. Is it SBIR or STTR? Is it phase 1 or phase 2? Which topic and subtopic are you applying for? And what are the proposal submission deadlines? If the proposal is due in a week, you probably can't put a strong enough proposal together in that amount of time to successfully win an award. So it's really important to keep track of submission deadlines. Something else that you should think about when you're looking for a solicitation is this program a good fit for your business? And if you're not in business, if you're a researcher, is it a good fit for your research interests? A lot of work goes into writing these proposals, and it is a great funding opportunity, but you want to make sure that you're getting something out of it too. So this is kind of a snapshot of what the SBIR solicitation search homepage for the National Science Foundation looks like. I mentioned that in order to apply, you have to apply for a specific topic and subtopic, and these are what the topic and subtopics will look like. So the second thing you're going to do once you've found a solicitation that you're interested in applying for is that you're going to assess your eligibility for that particular solicitation. There are a couple of things that you're going to need to look at. For example, in order to apply, you must be a small business concern that is for profit. There are also ownership restrictions. For example, I know that some of the solicitations require for less than 50% of the company to be owned by non-US citizens. And there are also some proposals that have certain qualifications that the principal investigator must meet before they are eligible. The second thing that you're going to do after you've assessed your company's eligibility is you're going to assess the eligibility of your invention and technology. Something that you think you've created and is new might not necessarily be true. So before you put in the time and effort into writing this 20, 30, 40-page proposal, you want to make sure that this is actually new technology. Two ways of assessing the novelty of your technology is to first do a search on Google Scholar, and the second is to do what I was talking about earlier, which is look at awards that have already been issued. And based on that, you can see if there were other companies doing what you're thinking of doing. A lot of the solicitations also have a pre-submission assessment, which allows you to basically present your idea for initial feedback before you put together the proposal. if the solicitation that you're interested in does have this option, I would highly recommend taking advantage of it. For some of the agencies, they do also provide contact information for the program managers, and you can call or email them for feedback on your idea. Before you do so, make sure that you have a good, solid list of questions that you want them to answer, because chances are, after the first reply, it will be very difficult to hear from them again. These are busy people, so just make sure that you're asking the right questions when you do initially make contact with them. Something else that is required for SBIR STTR proposal is that it requires for your company to be registered on a number of websites, such as SAM, DUNS, and the SBA. And these are some examples of the agencies that your company has to be registered on before you can apply for a proposal. As you can see, each agency kind of has their own requirements. We have a consultant at the SBDC who specializes in government contracting, and he can assist you with these registrations if you are interested in receiving assistance. So once you've assessed your eligibility for the proposal, the next step is, of course, writing a proposal. So on average, a proposal takes 150 hours spread over 10 weeks to complete. Agencies release proposals once or twice a year at varying times. So there are a lot of moving parts that you need to keep track of, and this is a long-term process. This is probably not something that you're going to be able to put together in a week or two, especially if it's your first time applying. So there are some skills involved with preparing a proposal. The first is that you have to have the ability to analyze the solicitation and read between the lines. Because this is essentially a government process and procedure, you will be dealing with a lot of red tape, so be prepared for that. You also need to prepare on a financial level. So they're not just looking at your technology and your ability to take that technology to the commercialization stage. They're also looking at exactly how you're going to spend the money that they award you. You will also need a lot of time management skills, especially if you're applying for more than one solicitation, because a lot of these agencies have different deadlines and also different dates on which they release the solicitations. It's also very important to explicitly follow guidelines and pay attention to detail. And the most important skill that you need to have is you need to know who your audience is. You need to know who's going to be reading this proposal and judging it. So over here, I have an example of a Phase 1 proposal checklist, and this is a NASA Phase 1. As you can see, they're asking you for a lot of information, not only about your firm, but also about your budget, the technical proposals, and any research agreements that you may have with institutes. This is an example of a Phase 1 proposal checklist for the Department of Energy. As you can see, it's different than the NASA proposal. And this is something that a lot of small businesses struggle with, whereas they've been successful at obtaining funding with one agency, but then when they go to apply for an SBIR or STTR solicitation with another agency, they're hit with something completely different. So this is where the attention to detail part comes into play. The project or summary section is probably the most important part of the proposal, because this is where you get a chance to really highlight your technology and write about why it's important and why you should win over the other thousands of people that are applying. When writing the project or summary section, there are two main areas on which I would recommend that you focus. The first is your business model, and the second is the audience. So let's talk about the business model first. When you're writing this proposal, you want to clearly identify a need that is currently not being met and describe how your innovation meets that need. This may be something that sounds very obvious to you, but when you're writing this proposal, you have to look at it from the audience's perspective. I might not feel the same way. I might not feel that this is a very obvious solution. So you want to make sure that you're really highlighting what the strengths of your innovation or technology are. You also need to talk about why your research matters and who will use your product. So you're looking beyond the lab. You're not just looking at yourself as an inventor or your company. You're looking at what are the broader implications for commercialization of this product or technology. Something else that you need to look at is who will it benefit, and who are the key stakeholders that will be involved in the market for this product or technology. And the last one is very important. You need to show that you can achieve the end goal, which is commercialization. You need to show that your business has the infrastructure and the expertise to not only take this technology from the R&D stage to the working model stage, but also beyond that to the commercialization stage, where you're actually making this product or technology available on the mass market and you're making a profit from it. When writing the proposal, it's really important for you to know your audience, to know who's going to be reading it. And there are a variety of ways that you can address this. The first is to research the agency prior to writing your proposal. Look at things that the agency is struggling with. Look at other ventures that they've funded. Look at what their interests are and try to tailor your project summary or proposal to meet those interests. If possible, if you can get information on the people that will be on the panel reviewing your proposal, that is also very beneficial. The panel usually consists of people from a variety of different backgrounds, so it's important to write your proposal to be understood by people that come from not just a science or technological background, but any background. Something else that you need to look at is how does your product or technology address the agency's mission and their objective? When writing about your project or proposal, try to identify the need, make a case for it, and outline how you will address it. When doing so, it's important for you to quantify it as much as possible. So quantify the size of the market, quantify the revenue potential, and quantify the cost savings. You might have created something that you think is revolutionary, but when you think about what are the cost savings to the agency if they fund this venture, you might find that there really aren't any. So that's something that you need to look at. When writing the proposal, try to limit jargon, superfluous language, and long-winded paragraphs as much as you can. Remember that the end goal is commercialization, and think outside the lab. So it's important for you to wear many different hats when writing this proposal. You might be the inventor, but you're also the CEO of a small business. You're also looking at how are you going to make a profit out of it. You also have to put yourself in the shoes of the customer. Who will be purchasing your product? How much are they willing to pay for it? And what are the benefits to them of you taking your technology to market? So this is a sample project proposal abstract that I found online that I think did a great job of putting together a proposal. This is for a solicitation issued by the National Institute of Health, and this is for phase 1. So I've highlighted a couple of areas that I'd like to draw your attention to. The National Institute of Health, of course, one of the things that they've been struggling with is an aging population, the economic burden of an aging population. In the first sentence, they clearly highlight the problem, which is an increasing burden on economic resources with the aging population. The next highlighted paragraph says that this technology will significantly reduce expense and morbidity. Again, both things that the National Institute of Health struggles with, that they're interested in addressing. Something else to remember when writing a proposal is that words matter. So at the bottom, you will notice that instead of writing, "we will attempt to demonstrate," they have written, "we will demonstrate." This makes the narrative seem more confident. And again, these things do matter, especially if people on the panel are reviewing thousands of proposals. Something else that I liked about this is that they broke up their narrative into different sections, which makes it much easier to read. So they have significance, hypothesis, preliminary data, specific aims. Another thing that I liked that they included that was probably not required for them to include, but they did anyway, is the preliminary data section. By including preliminary data, you're showing the panel that you've already done some research. You're already vested, and you're coming to them with something in hand, not necessarily just an idea. Again, words matter. It's difficult to write a proposal, especially if it's something that you're not, if you're an inventor and the majority of your work involves working on this technology and developing it and refining it, it's really difficult to write a proposal that requires more marketing skills. But unfortunately, it's something that will really make yours stand out over the other thousands that it will be competing against. So in addition to the project summary section, the principal investigator section is another area that you need to focus on. This section is used to showcase the abilities of the principal investigator to conduct the research. You should highlight the academic, research, and/or professional accomplishments of the principal investigator. And keep in mind that the principal investigator is a major component of the research. So apply the same care to the principal investigator's bio as you do to the abstract or project summary. You want to make sure that you're portraying the principal investigator as somebody who's capable of taking this technology from the very early research and development stages all the way through to commercialization. Something else that you may include with certain proposals, if it's allowed, are letters of support. Letters of support help to bolster the applicant's ability to deliver the stated objectives. They may come in the form of endorsements from a well-known person or organization in the field, and they may also serve to validate the need for the technology, the scientific approach of the principal investigator in conducting research and development, and/or demonstrate the ability of the company to build relationships. Letters of support may also provide support in other forms, such as I, as a research institution, will allow the principal investigator to use my facilities, or provide them with data that they need to maybe conduct clinical trials or something else of that nature. Letters of support can be very useful, but remember to only include them if it's allowed or if it's necessary. In addition to the project summary, something else that you will be required to submit that a lot of small businesses struggle with is a budget. The purpose of submitting a budget is for you to show the awarding agency how you will spend the grant or contract funds that they give you. Because this is taxpayers' money, you will need to abide by government restrictions as it pertains to taxpayer funds. And the budget format may be specific to the agency issuing the solicitation. It's very difficult for me to tell you how to write a budget because I'm not sure what the requirements might be that you will face. But there are two broad steps that you can take when writing a budget for any agency. The first is to identify and estimate your startup costs. So this involves looking at things like how much will personnel cost, how much will the facility cost, and how much are you going to have to pay for equipment and supplies. The second step involves classifying these costs as either direct or indirect. Direct costs are incurred as a result of conducting work, and labor is the most common direct cost. When writing your budget, keep in mind that you may need to justify the pay scale that you have set for your employees, and you can do so by obtaining data about wage rates in your local area. Another example of a direct costs are materials and supplies. Next, we have indirect costs, and these are the general costs of being in business. So you're looking at things like rent, accountant fees, legal fees, utilities, and insurance. So once you've put together your proposal and all the other required documents, you're going to want to review it before you submit. In doing so, make sure to check for compliance with proposal guidelines, and this includes things as detailed as length, font, margins, and topics discussed. Ryan mentioned that if he gets a proposal that's more than 5 pages, he sometimes reads it. But if this is a risk you're willing to take, by all means, go ahead. But I would strongly recommend remaining within the guidelines that have been prescribed. You will also want to review your content for clarity and strength of argument for support. And you can do this a variety of ways, but the best is by having other people in other agencies take a look at it. And if possible, try to show your proposal to people that come from a variety of different backgrounds so you can get their perspectives and build that into your narrative before it's put in front of the panel review. Ensure that your narrative is confident. We talked about words matter. Really take that to heart and make sure that it reads well. If applicable, ensure that you have incorporated feedback from an agency that you have received in the past. So if you emailed someone about your proposal and they sent you some feedback, make sure that you incorporate that into the final proposal. And as I mentioned earlier, always remember to ask people from different backgrounds to review your proposal. After you submit the proposal, it will go through the evaluation phase. Proposals first undergo an administrative review, which is basically where they make sure to check that it fits the parameters that were put in the solicitation, so font, size, margins, things like that. If a proposal does not pass this stage, it's possible that it will be rejected without consideration, even if it's a great idea. If it doesn't pass the administrative review, it will not go forward. If you do pass the administrative review, the next step is the merit review. And when they're assessing your proposal at the merit review stage, they're looking at 4 key items. The first is the innovation and technical merit of your idea. The second is the experience of the team members that are going to be involved in it and their qualifications. The third is commercialization, or what is the market for your product once it has been developed. And the fourth is the value of this product or technology to the awarding agency. It may be 3 to 6 months before award winners are announced. And keep in mind that the SBIR STTR is an extremely competitive process. How competitive, you might ask? Well, here are some statistics that I have pulled for you. In 2017, the Department of Defense issued 3 solicitations. They received over 6,000 proposals, and out of these, 18% were selected for phase 1. Out of the 18% selected for phase 1, 53% were able to progress to phase 2. The Department of Energy issued many more solicitations. They issued 16, and they received over 1,500 proposals. And out of these, 16% were awarded phase 1, and out of those, 53% were awarded phase 2. The National Science Foundation issued 2 solicitations that year. They received over 1,900 proposals. Their selection rate for phase 1 was 10%, and for phase 2 was 41%. So we've talked a lot about business model, and I just wanted to clarify what that is for those of you that may not necessarily be from a business background. There are many, many definitions for a business model, but I found the clearest one to be a business model is the unique way in which your resources are structured that allows you to successfully develop and sell your product or service. We also talked a lot about commercialization. Commercialization is defined as the process of developing products, processes, technologies, or services, and the production and delivery of the products, processes, technologies, or services for sale to or use by the federal government or commercial market. I've highlighted some words in the definition of commercialization because it's important to understand that commercialization takes place at all stages of your business. You're looking at developing a product or technology from scratch, then you're looking at producing the product or technology and delivering it to the mass market. So this is not something that you have to consider once you've reached a certain stage. This is something that should always be in the back of your mind even before you look for or apply for a solicitation. What are the market implications of my product or technology? Some things to consider when deciding on your business model. Once a technology is found feasible, how will you bring it to the market? How will you protect your intellectual property? Because that's really what you're making money off of. Who will assist you in achieving your phase 1 or phase 2 objectives? Where will you find these people? And how much will you pay them? Who will be the target customer once technology reaches the market? And when assessing your business model, again, unfortunately, you're going to have to look outside of the lab. On the topic of business models, I'd like to share an example with you. Grocery stores existed way before Walmart came into existence. But Walmart revolutionized the way that groceries are brought to the market, and they did that through their business model, which focused on efficiencies in their logistical processes that allowed them to bring goods to the market at a much lower price. So coming up with a business model doesn't necessarily mean delivering something new to the market. It could also mean delivering something to the market in a way that it's not being delivered at present. Another great example of a business model is Airbnb. Airbnb is now the world's largest accommodation provider, but they don't own any real estate besides their own headquarters. Their business model and their purpose or their role in the marketplace is as a facilitator between people looking for accommodation and people that are wanting to provide it. So this is kind of what I'm talking about when I refer to the business model. It can be very, very difficult to come up with a business model, especially if you've not done it in the past or you don't have a business background. So this is a tool that I share with a lot of my startups. It's called the Business Model Canvas. What it is basically an alternative to the traditional business plan, which consisted of 30 to 40 pages and was a nightmare to read and or change. The Business Model Canvas forces you to look at the same factors that you would look at for traditional business plan, which are key partners, key activities, key resources, channels, customer relationships, customer segments, revenue streams, and cost structure. So it forces you to look at all these items, but it does so in an easy to use and easy to follow format that fits on one page and is flexible and can change with your businesses as it changes. I do want to talk a little bit about the value proposition box. This is something very important for you to understand, and for many of you, this will be the core of your business model. And what the value proposition is that it asks you, what value are you providing to the customer? And is this something that is being provided by somebody already active in the market? What makes you and your company and your idea or product stand out from what's already out there? This will be your competitive edge, and this is essentially what customers are going to pay you for. So it's very important to look at this in depth. Go ahead.
So we've been using the mission model canvas, and I'm wondering if there is a huge difference, or if there's a preference to one versus the other.
Honestly, it really just depends on you. The important thing is that you're addressing all these different topics. So some people feel the need to put their thoughts down on paper, and for them, a traditional business plan might be the best way to go forward, where they have a working document that's 30, 40 pages, very detailed. For others, like I'm a visual learner. So for me, this is easier because I can see the relationships between these different factors all laid out on one page. This is also easier if you're planning on changing things around. As a startup, you might start out doing something one way and then find that you're veering in another direction. This is slightly more flexible in terms of it's easier to make changes, but it really just depends on you. Go ahead.
So maybe I can help answer that question as well. There's two different, there's the business model canvas, which she has here. That was started for startups, right, for small business. The mission model was an adaptation of this business model for largely the military initially. And so it's very much focused on, less on, let's say, revenue stream and more on what are you actually bringing to the end user? What problem are you truly solving? So the mission model canvas is much more focused on the military side of things, whereas the business model canvas is much more startups, that side of things. So.
When we're applying either of those to the different agencies, would that mean that it depends on the agency which canvas that we might choose? Like the DoD might look a little bit more favorable on the mission, whereas like NASA might look a little more favorable on the business. Is that right?
I would honestly, I would argue that it depends on the solicitation. It's, as I'm sure if you've seen solicitations, they vary wildly. Some are very specific and some are broad to the point of saying, we want this issue addressed, how will you do it? So it really just depends on the solicitation. My advice to you would be to use however many tools you need to get the idea clear in your mind. So if it helps you to do this, keeping just your business in mind, and then to use the mission one to address the specific DoD need, you can do that as well. There's really no hard set formula for how to develop a business model or a business plan. Okay. All right, so some other relevant information about SBIR, STTR. Historically, the same companies keep winning these bids. An example of a company that has been very successful is Faraday Technologies. In the year 2016, they won 10 solicitations or 10 awards, and in the year 2017, they won another 10. So that's 20 total since 2016. Less than 20% of applications successfully receive funding, and out of Phase 1 awardees, 40 to 50% successfully transition to Phase 2. So your chances of being awarded a Phase 2 grant are much higher than being awarded Phase 1. If your proposal is rejected, you can resubmit and also ask the review panel for feedback or the program manager for feedback. The Department of Health and Human Services takes another approach, which I thought was really interesting. They recommend becoming a reviewer prior to submitting your own proposal. So you can actually apply to be on the panel review for these proposals, and that will give you some more insight into the process. Beware of acronyms and jargon. NASA refers to commercialization as infusion, and the Department of Defense calls it transition. So it's very important for you to know what these words stand for in the context of a solicitation from a specific agency. And last but not least, the federal government has hired agencies whose sole purpose is to assist SBIR, STTR applicants. They themselves are government contractors, so they receive funding from the SBA and other agencies, which means they are able to provide these services to you free of charge. Ironically, a lot of small businesses don't know that this resource is available to them. I myself did not know that this was a very viable resource until very recently. So I would definitely recommend reaching out to one of these agencies. So we happen to be one of those agencies, so I'm going to shamelessly self-promote a little. A lot of people aren't sure of what the SBDC does, so I'm hoping that this infographic will help clear things up a little bit. At the core of what we do is we provide business consulting services. So this involves everything from coming up with a business plan for a new business, addressing cybersecurity needs, doing financial or budget analysis for existing companies, doing marketing, and also offering loan assistance. Some secondary services that we provide are training workshops. We also have a consultant who is dedicated to assisting with government procurement for those small businesses that are interested in becoming government contractors. We also provide international trade services and disaster recovery assistance for those businesses affected by hurricanes and other natural disasters. Specifically in the SBIR, STTR process, some ways in which we can help is through startup assistance. So we can help you develop your business model if you want additional feedback or are having a hard time coming up with that yourself. We also assist with registrations on websites such as SAMS, DUNS, the SBA, and others included in that infographic I shared with you earlier. We can do market research, and this is very important, especially for those of you that the majority of your experience is in the lab working with technologies. We can actually do research to tell you what the market for your product is. So we can quantify that number for you to then put in the proposal. So we can tell you that by successfully rolling out this product or service, you will save the National Institute of Health $10 billion a year, and you can include that in your proposal. Something else that we provide is marketing assistance. So we are able to review your proposal for clarity and make sure that you're presenting a compelling argument before it is put forth before the panel review. We can also help you determine how best to bring the product to market and also possibly connect you with relevant customers. So we can tell you how to market your product to the people that are essentially going to pay for it in the mass market. We can also ensure that the abstract or project summary that you write showcases how your company will meet the customer or agency needs. Through our financial analysis services, we can help you determine capital requirements, and we can also assist you with drafting a budget. For capital assistance purposes, we can assist you in finding and applying for loans in the later stages of product development, once you've gone beyond the SBIR, STTR stage. And other areas in which we can help you is that we can connect you with other relevant resources, such as patent lawyers, SBIR, STTR resources, helping agencies, and accountants. And another area in which we can help you is that if you are unsuccessful at receiving SBIR, STTR funding, we can sit down with you and look at other ways in which you can commercialize your product or technology. Here are some additional resources that I wanted to share with you that I think you will find helpful. Is there a question?
Yes. Were all those things on there cost-free to the?
Yes, yes. We are funded by the SBA and UWF, so we are cost-free to the clients.
So there's no services that you provide that are free to the
No. The training workshops that we provide do sometimes have a fee, but all of these, which falls under business consulting, is cost-free. So some additional resources. The SBIR website, I think, is a great place for you to start your search. And it contains a lot of information. It may be difficult to navigate, but it's a valuable resource. The SBIR website also has tutorials that go through all stages of the proposal writing process. And I strongly advise you to watch these as well. They also have a local resources locator tool. I did do a search for our area, and unfortunately, there aren't many resources out here, but it is still something that I would recommend you look at. The second to last link that I've included is something that I found very helpful. It's a mock panel review, and it was put out by the NIH. It'll give you an idea of the kinds of discussions that people on the panel have when they're reviewing a proposal. I think it's very insightful, and I would strongly recommend that you view it, even if you're not applying for an NIH solicitation. And last but not least, there's the SBDC website. It has information about our organization and how to get in touch with us. And this is my contact information. Are there any questions? Yes.
I did have one that goes way back to the second or third slide we had.
Okay.
It was about SBIR versus STTR and the principal investigator and 30 and 40 and 60 and something. And I wondered what that was really talking about, or maybe I should follow up later.
So were you talking about the ownership requirements or the partnering requirements?
I think the partner and the ownership.
Okay.
It was right in the middle of that chart at the top.
Okay. So for SBIR, the small business or the principal investigator is allowed to subcontract or partner with another organization up to around 30%. Yes. So you have that option. For STTR, you have to have a partner nonprofit research institution on board before you are eligible for the award. Does that make sense?
Right, I understood that, but wow, it's allowed to subcontract, that was an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'll have to follow up with you afterwards on this, if it's still not.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Any other questions?
Just before you started talking, we got an email from our contracting officer that they want more details about our milestones.
Okay.
I thought I have enough details in the proposal, sufficient details in the proposal, but what the heck do they want now? What do I do now?
Okay. So this is something that I struggled with in putting together this presentation. There is so much information out there, and each solicitation is very unique. So it's very difficult to give blanket instructions on you should do this or you should not do this. My recommendation to you, honestly, is if you email it to me, I can better answer that question, because then I can look at their feedback and say, I think this is what they were referring to. Here's a way for you to make these milestones that they're asking for. That's what I've done with other clients, and it seems to work better than handing you a checklist.
And talk to the person that put out the solicitation. Well, they're more than willing to speak to you
No, we're good. All right.
Well, thank you very much, Ayesha. Let's give her a round of applause. We appreciate it. And once again, her slides will be available on the Doolittle Institute website and on her website. So we'll go ahead and make sure that those all get posted for you. So we're going to move straight on to the next. I'm sorry, wait, did we have a? Yes, good question. So again, all of the slides for so far, again, most of the people have agreed to allow us to put all the slides on the website. So I can't speak again for the later presenters, but yes, they will be on the Doolittle Institute website. So good question. Yes. I don't know. The estimate was 2 weeks, was what I was given, but it could be sooner than that. I think that's just the latest that we will have them posted. So we will try to get them posted as soon as possible. The video of this that is happening right now will be available. It is live right now, and it will be available immediately on the Doolittle Institute's YouTube channel. All right. So our next presenter, we'll just move right on, is Ted Bujewski from the Rapid Innovation Fund, and he's going to give us a little overview of what that is. So everyone help me welcome Ted.
I got a mic. Where's the clicker? Can everyone hear me?
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Is this on, the mic? Thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. Before I get started, how many people here are in a small business? That's pretty good. Well, I'm in the Office of Small Business Programs at OSD, and in our office, we have the Rapid Innovation Fund program. We also have the SBIR program in our office, and prior to managing RIF, I was managing the SBIR program. So I'll be around for the rest of the afternoon. If any of you have any questions about RIF or SBIR, I'd be happy to answer them. So RIF was established in 2011, and one of the purposes of RIF was to transition technologies into weapon systems, into DoD programs. And a lot of those technologies come from SBIR programs. So this is a good segue from the SBIR discussion to the Rapid Innovation Fund program. So it was established by Congress in 2011. It gave the DoD pretty broad authorities on how to acquire technology. About the only conditions they gave us was it had to be a competitive merit-based program with the goal of transitioning innovative technologies into weapon systems. In 2017, it was made a permanent program. It's been a congressional plus-up since 2011. We're currently in the process of getting into the DoD POM going forward. And one of the main focuses is small businesses, getting small business innovative technologies into weapon systems. And just a little commercial announcement. Our office is hosting a conference in Orlando, August 13th through 16th, called Beyond Phase 2, which is going to focus on SBIR and RIF. And so I'd highly encourage you to attend that conference, given it is in Florida. And a lot of the SBIR program managers will be there for you to meet. There'll be classes on how to write proposals and all the intricacies of SBIR and RIF. I think it'd be very useful to anyone interested in SBIR or RIF. And you can find that information on the business.defense.gov website.
Is that going to be in conjunction with the Mentor Protege that's going on at the same time?
Yeah, it's Beyond Phase 2 Mentor Protege Conference. Okay. It's also combined with RIF, so there'll be all three of them. But Beyond Phase 2 Mentor Protege, RIF was too long to put on there. I just call it Beyond Phase 2. So some of the key requirements that we look for in RIF is the main thing is we want to accelerate or enhance the military capability in support of a major program. We're also looking at stimulating innovative technologies, reducing life cycle cost, addressing technical risk, improving timeliness and thoroughness of test and evaluation outcomes. And two key things, the project should be completed in 2 years, and the maximum amount is $3 million. And I see a lot of proposals that say, have a schedule, oh, it's 24 months and $3 million. Those are not, we're hoping that you can do it less than 24 months and less than $3 million. So if you do write a proposal, just don't blanket put 24 months and $3 million. Put in there what you actually think it's going to cost and how long you think it's going to take. And we do give selection preference to small businesses. That doesn't exclude large businesses, but if there's a proposal that's equal small business, large business, we'll give it to the small business because we really like to stimulate the small business community. So implementing the program.
Partnerships between small bit like non-traditional and traditional large businesses. Is there any?
Yeah, so the preference, so the question was, what if it's a combination of large business and small business? If it's a combination of large business and small business, the small business preference would be given if small business was doing 51% of the work. But we encourage partnerships with small business and large business because oftentimes the small business has the speed and the innovation but can't mass produce it. And so it's good if you're partnering with a large business.
What is the process in determining topics?
The question was, what's the process in determining topics? I'll get into that a little bit later, but so, okay. The topics are determined by DoD-wide. We go out with a call for topics, and it's decided by the different organizations within the DoD. So it's a competitive two-step process. First thing is we go out with a broad area announcement, which is on FedBizOps, and we ask for a 4-page white paper. So it shouldn't take you too long or too many resources to put into it. And then we collect all the white papers. Subject matter experts review the white papers and determine which white papers they're interested in proceeding with. And then you get a request for a full proposal. And the proposals are all racked and stacked against all the other proposals that we receive. And based on the amount of funding, then we decide which ones to fund. So it's fund more than one. It all depends on the acquiring organization and how much money we have and whether it makes sense. We do allow competitive prototyping, so if an organization wants to have 2 different approaches to a problem, it does make sense to ask for 2 different proposals and then have competitive prototyping. So we do allow multiple awards in that case. But we'd have to measure it against all the other projects we have to fund. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, depending on how much the availability of funds. So the BAAs listed on FedBizOps, also on the Research and Engineering Defense Innovation Marketplace. And we're trying to become more rapid, and so we're potentially changing this process going forward because the way it is right now, it takes a pretty long time to get through the whole process, and we miss out on certain technologies. So in the future, we're probably going to short-circuit this process a little bit to give awards to contractors quicker than this. So there's a lot of stats on the program. Right now, it's funded at $250,000. Since 2011, we've funded over $1.7 billion in investments. 88% of those awards went to small business, and 67% of those awards went to former SBIR companies. So there's a tight connection with SBIR. Yes?
What happened since fiscal year where it went down to half of 439 and then really cut? Was there an event or policy change?
So the question was, why did it go from 439 to 250? 439 is what Congress originally gave us. I'm not exactly sure why Congress cut it in half since then.
Okay.
I've been working on the program for a year and a half, so I'm not sure what happened in between there. I think they initially threw a bunch of money at it probably, and then figured out how much money they actually wanted to spend on it. The main purpose the Congress had in RIF was to get over the valley of death. The DoD does a lot of research and development, and a lot of that doesn't get into systems, so Congress saw a need to create a program to facilitate getting all that technology into programs. Let's see. So as you can see in the bottom, the average award is about 2 million. So some are up towards 3 million, some are less than 3 million. We do get a lot of white papers. The number of proposals, number of awards we actually do is about 10% of the number of white papers we get. But that's a little bit misleading because a lot of the white papers we get don't come anywhere near satisfying the requirements. So if you actually have a really good white paper, your chances are a lot better than 10%. So I'd encourage you to look at the BAA if you're interested in RIF. We have previous BAAs posted on Defense Innovation Marketplace, and it really gives you a good idea of the depth and breadth of the RIF program. In the BAA, they have all the requirements with a detailed description of the requirement, as well as the technical point of contact. So you'll be able to identify which organizations are interested in your technology, and you can identify the point of contact. There's a phone number on there. You can call them. I'd encourage you to establish relationships with those organizations. The BAA also explains the whole process of how to win an award in RIF. These are all the different organizations within the DoD that participate in RIF. It's a very broad program covering the entire DoD. So these are all the different organizations you could potentially establish relationships, and these are all the organizations that submit requirements that go into the BAA. So if you're interested in winning an award, I'd establish a relationship with these organizations and put it in their head that they should submit a requirement. Yes?
So based on that solicitation, FY18 is already closed. Do you have a projection for the FY19 solicitation?
Yeah, it's going to be about the same. So the 18 opened in February, closed in April. It's going to be about the same for next year, although we've been trying to push it up, but it's probably going to be around February. And I wouldn't wait till the last minute. A lot of people wait until the very last minute to submit their proposals. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how to write a good proposal. You see thousands of proposals, so I see all the mistakes people made and all the good things that people do. So first and foremost, it needs to be responsive to the requirement. You need to show that you understand the requirements and that you can solve the problem, and that you have a structure in place to be able to actually implement your solution and have a high probability of success. And again, it helps to show that you have relationships with key customers. It's much better if you already have those relationships established before you even submit the RIF proposal. So the source selection criteria that's specified in the BAA, how much you contribute to the requirement, what's your technical approach and what's your qualifications, and then your schedule and cost. So RIF is funded with Budget Activity 4. For those of you not familiar with DoD budgeting, there's different pots of money, and we're specifically required by law to spend that money on certain things. So the technology readiness level is important when submitting your proposal. We typically expect technology readiness level 6 to 9, and on the left-hand side shows what those technology readiness levels are. So for 6 through 9, the technology is already pretty mature, and we want to take somewhat mature technologies that are ready to be transitioned into a system. They could also be commercial technologies that are already commercially available, but if they need to be modified to go into a DoD system, that's perfect for RIF. Also, a lot of the funds can be used for testing and evaluation to get them into a program. We will accept some proposals that are 4 or 5 if it's some really innovative technology, but it's typically not the case.
So how would they decide whether they want to make the exception for the 4 or 5 technology level? Would that be something that depends on the solicitation, or you read a proposal and even though it's not at the 8 through 9 or sorry 9 through 6 through 9, but they like it so much that they might make the exception?
Yeah. So in your response to the BAA, we asked the company to say what the technology readiness level is. So the company evaluates itself what the technology readiness level is, and explains why they think it's that TRL level. And then the evaluators will look at the proposal and say, wow, this is really incredible technology. We have to develop this, but we really want to transition within 2 years. So it all depends on the technology. Some technologies could be transitioned from a 4 to a 9 within 2 years, depending on what the problem is and what the technology is. But we don't want something, we have a TRL 4, we're going to go to a 6. That's not going to work. But if you have some credible path to go from a 4 to 8, 7, 8, 9, then that might be considered. So in the white paper, you need to include your technology solution, how it addresses the RIF requirement, a clear, concise synopsis of your approach, what's innovative about it, enough information so that we have confidence that you're going to be able to execute the project. And also, what's really important is transition, how you feel this technology could be transitioned and where it's going to be transitioned to. And what not to include, a technology looking for a solution. We don't want just, we have this great technology, but it doesn't really fit the requirement. History of the problem, generic company overviews. We're not interested in any of those things. We want to know how you're going to solve our problem. And again, when the BA opens, I would submit as soon as possible. You can always update your proposal within the system, but there's so many people that wait till the last hour to submit it, and then for some reason the website's down or something, and then they're scrambling and saying, oh, what's going on, and panicking. We can't, in order to be fair, we can't extend the BAA past the deadline, because everyone else had their proposals submitted on time. We can't make any exceptions. So this is the overall process. So to your question, back in the November timeframe, we start canvassing the services and the fourth state agencies for requirements. We put out a call for requirements, and then from those requirements, we create the BAA, and then we get in the white papers from the BAA, we evaluate the white papers. They do a rack and stack of the white papers and decide which white papers are a go or a no-go, and then do a rack and stack against all the other requirements and white papers that are out there. And then once that's decided, then the companies are asked to submit a full proposal, and typically it's about, I think, 50 or 60% chance of contract award after you're asked for submit a full proposal, and then contract negotiation and award.
What's involved in contract negotiations in this context?
Question was, what's involved in the contract negotiations? What's exactly your question about that?
Well, my question is, what exactly is left to negotiate after all this policy and things are set forth already? What usually are the things that are left to be negotiated at this stage?
Well, so you submit a white paper, government says, that's great, I want a full proposal. In the full proposal, it's a lot more detail, a lot more information than in the white paper. The white paper is 4 pages. Full proposal is exactly what you're going to do, the statement of work and everything. So government sees that, and it might be different than what was in the white paper. You might have changed the price from what was in the white paper. There are a lot of things that could be different. Or
Okay, so they're just clarifying things so it works. It's not something really new.
Yeah, it's just clarifying the details and working things out. What's in the full proposal might be different than what's in the white paper. So as you can see, this takes quite a bit of time. We're trying to speed that up. We're looking at potentially doing contests and a lot of different innovative ways of awarding things. Hackathons.
So that February to April time frame that you mentioned, that was when white papers were accepted.
Right. Yeah, February to April is when white papers are selected. Submitted.
Okay.
Right. Right. And we have a online portal. Unfortunately, we have an OSD Army portal, and we have a Navy portal, and a Air Force portal. We got 3 different portals for making submissions. So it depends on who you're interested in, and that's clearly identified in the BA. We've got in the BA all the requirements for the entire DoD. It's specified where they're, which organization it is. In the future, we're opening it to one portal. So these are some point of contacts for the Army, Navy, Air Force. Right now, I co-manage the program with Miss Ellen Purdy from Research and Engineering. Some of you may know that the DoD is currently doing a big reorganization, and the RIF program's moving from Small Business Office to Research and Engineering. Here's some other additional resources. This is Defense Innovation Marketplace. You can find the broad area announcement and previous broad area announcements on there. There's also a lot of other programs that are in R&E that you could potentially get awards from that are similar to Rapid Innovation Program. Those are all on that website as well. Oops. Then there's business.defense.gov, which is a small business website. That also has information on SBIR and RIF and Mentor Protege Program. And if you want information on the conference that we're going to have, you can find that on the events section on business.defense.gov. That's all I had. Any other questions?
What is Velociter?
Yeah, Velociter, we should take that off the website. Velociter used to be the DoD commercialization program, but that got discontinued about a year ago. Yeah.
Is there something you're reading in the big white papers or the proposals that is a common mistake? Just like, why do they keep doing this? Is there, like something that we should watch out for when we're writing? Well, I mean, like, maybe spelling is the number one that you're like, I can't believe that they, keep spelling wrong, or maybe it's, numbers of pages. Yeah, I mean, is there like a pet peeve?
So the question was, is there any common mistakes people make when they're submitting white papers? A lot of people have problems with the format, which is clearly spelled out in the portal and in the BAA, and we constantly get questions about what the format should be. And if you don't follow the format, you're disqualified if the format's wrong. Another big thing is that people just don't clearly understand the requirement. So there's a period in the BAA where you can call and ask questions of the technical point of contact within the requirement. And so I'd encourage you to call and ask them questions, and then we will publish the answers to those questions to everybody on the BAA. So it doesn't hurt to keep on calling the technical point of contact so you understand the requirement, because we may not be writing the requirements all that clear, sometimes on purpose. Yeah, question?
Sure, to complement the question there, are there examples of successful proposals in white papers that we can look to as a template in addition to the rest?
So the question was, are there examples of successful proposals? Unfortunately, every proposal is proprietary, so we can't give it to people. But successful proposals are from companies that already know the customer, basically, already know the problem, and have the solution, and say, this is the solution, boom, boom, boom. This is how we're going to execute it. This is the schedule, this is the cost. A proposal that gives us pretty high confidence that they know what they're doing. Also, and if it's innovative and really new, that's a definite winner. Yeah, question?
With that said, are the awardees of these proposals, are they proprietary as well? Like people who win them, are they proprietary? Is it possible we can go to the small businesses and be like, hey, can I get an example of what your awarded process looked like?
No, the awardee names aren't proprietary.
They're published?
Well, they're public information in FPDS. So,
Perfect. So that might be a good way to go about it then, is just to go to them and be like, hey, do you mind sharing a little bit of insight of how we do it? If they're open to that.
We don't put a list of them online, though. Yeah. Any other questions?
All right, thank you. Let's give Ted another round of applause. All right, well, before we finish out the afternoon, we are going to go into another break. There's some leftover cookies, there's some coffee, and we won't start again until 3 p.m. So that gives you a little over 20 minutes to take time to, a lot of you are small business owners, I'm sure, take care of some business as well. So we'll meet back in here promptly at 3 for the last little bit of our session. Thank you.
Are you hearing me?
Oh, what's taking up? It's actually getting this mic. It's really weird. Alright. This is where I take care of the audio settings. Okay.
A wide variety of potential users for our technology to get their perspective. So we brought out a live virtual and constructive simulation that supports medical training for pararescue.
Accelerate results. This is your chance through military, whether through academics, to tap into ultimately a network of over 600,000 officers, enlisted civilians.
We can find our seats. Woo, that was loud. We'll start in about 1 more minute if everyone can make their way back into the auditorium and find their seats. Finish the last portion of our day. All right, once again, if everyone could please start to make their way inside the auditorium. We'll get started in just a moment here. All right, once again, everyone, thank you so much for coming out. We have a couple more presentations for you, but first I'm going to get started. We have a couple of distinguished visitors here with us today, and I'm going to pass it off to Mr. Nelson to introduce them.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I am Nathan Nelson. I am the Director of Military Affairs for Congressman Matt Gaetz. We're very excited to be here and see all of the fantastic things that are happening here at Doolittle Institute. One of the things that Congressman Gaetz has recently directed me and our staff to get involved, heavily involved with, is helping out the small defense industry in Northwest Florida and figuring out ways in which we can improve the landscape. So we recently had a town hall session and heard multiple issues from all of you about what's historically been obstacles for your business. And since then, over the last couple of months, we've put together some specific individuals to help really target and focus some of these obstacles and how we're going to go about overcoming them and actually putting together some action plans. So in addition to some of those small business executive types, we also have senior military advisors, and then we've gotten together with some of the leadership on Hurlburt and Aglin to try to figure out how we can improve the landscape. And I think we're rapidly developing some plans and courses of action that I think is going to have an incredible improvement on how you do business here in Northwest Florida. I think it's going to be fantastic. So here with me today, we have another congressional staffer, Ms. Laura Rockus, that's been helping us out a great deal through this process. We also have our district director, Ms. Dawn McCardle, who runs the Pensacola office. But in addition to that, one of Congressman Gaetz' senior military advisors, one of the prior commanders over at at Hurlburt Field and recently retired, moved back here to the Niceville area. Brigadier General retired Gwen Armfeld is here, and he's specifically helping us with this small business improvement program for the congressman. So definitely a lot more to follow on this as we kind of go forward with some of these courses of actions. We're going to be on the lookout for announcements about town halls in the future as we get opportunities to talk about the successes we've had, the obstacles we still have to overcome, and any new issues that any of you may have. In the near term, I am available here in the district for anybody to discuss specific issues that you may have. I'm going to leave a stack of business cards here. I'm available anytime to meet you where you are, and we can specifically talk about some of the programs that we're trying to undergo. And just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea, some of the things that we heard in the last briefing were, many of the businesses that get some of these awards are people that already have access. They already know what the customer wants, and they already have a relationship with the customer. Well, that can be a great big problem for people who don't have relationships with the customer, and one of the primary obstacles is establishing that relationship. So we're trying to look for ways in which we can remove that obstacle, facilitate access, and foster those relationships so that you can increase your success with getting those rewards. And that helps the military mission because you have more people in there innovating and competing, and that ultimately leads to a better product and a better service to the customer. So those are some of the things that we're looking at. Like I said, I'm available anytime that you want to reach out to me by phone, in person to meet, or by email. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much and welcome. We appreciate you guys being here. All right, our last sort of outside briefing for the afternoon is Mr. John Matecki, who is going to be briefing on the Tech Warrior exercise. So, John, thank you so much for being here, and let's give him a round of applause as he approaches as well.
Thank you. First off, thank you to the staff of Doolittle for putting this on. Amazing, top-notch facility, staff, great event. So I am one of the last presenters. I do have 99 slides, so the next 3 hours hopefully will go by fast. I was always, when I present, you get 3 B's that you got to follow. You got to be brief, you got to be brilliant, and then be gone. So I'm going to try to stick to at least 2 of the 3. The brilliant may or may not come. So I'm the Associate Director of Training and Exercise through the Wright State Research Institute. We are partnered, affiliated through Wright State University, funded by the Air Force Small Business Innovation Research Office to test technologies. This is the agenda. We're going to give you an introduction of what the Tech Warrior Enterprise is. A lot of you may have heard about Tech Warrior, and most of you probably were expecting Mr. David Shahady. Sorry he couldn't be here. He got pulled to a meeting at the Pentagon last minute. But lucky for you, you've got the better look into the 2 and the shorter briefer of the 2. Otherwise, you guys would be here until 6 o'clock. Some folks who have heard him speak know that that's accurate, and he will see this, or I will catch some HELL later. So how do we support that at the National Center for Medical Readiness? We are basically a military. We follow all those jargons. So I work for WSU, WSRI, at NCMR, 4TW. So we've got the alphabet soup. But National Center for Medical Readiness is where my office is and where we house these events. And then some testimonial video, because I don't want you to take my word for it. I may come off as a salesman. I'll actually let you hear directly from one of our SBIRs that is a local Cincinnati company. And then we're actually blessed to, it's such a small world of, actually have from 2 years ago, we have a participant in the back who was a warrior in Tech Warrior 2016. And then we also have a SBIR that was out in April for one of our events that we'll get into. So it's a small world, and there's a couple of familiar faces in here, so it's not as big of a world as you think it is. So let's jump right in. So the introduction to Tech Warrior Enterprise. So our mission statement. Lots of nice fancy words, buzzwords. They look good. I am going to be the one presenter that's not going to make my slides available just to be different. I'm just kidding. They'll be available. The only thing that won't be is the videos that'll be on there. We're going to pull the videos out to force you to go to our video location, which is the Air Force SBIR. And then we also have our social media for the Tech Warrior Enterprise. But here's our mission. What does all that mean? Let's break it down. We take, as you guys learned earlier in the previous briefings, we have companies come in at a TRL 3. Can we help folks that don't have any device? Yes, but it's a little bit more difficult, especially when you get the warfighter in. We could sit down and help you lay out groundwork as far as if you're doing something that's going to involve missions. We could bring folks in to help you develop what those missions are. But if you give me something tangible that I can touch, and more importantly, possibly break, which I know some of you business owners, it's bad, but it's good. If I break it, that means the warfighter didn't break it, and that potentially could cost someone their life downrange. So all that is we take your device, we test it in a controlled environment, and hopefully by the time you leave, you can bump up 1, 2 TRLs by making some tweaks and feedback. So that's our mission. These are our goals. We push the limits of promising state-of-the-art technology. You notice it doesn't say SBIR. We are not inclusive to just SBIR. So if you are a small business, you are welcome. It's the whole concept of if I'm turning the lights on for 10 people, might as well turn it on for 20 people. So, and I'm not running for office. It's about to sound like that. So the next endorsement has been paid for by John Matecki. We understand that if I help a small business in the Dayton area or wherever, it's going to have a trickle effect. It's going to help the economy of that town, help the state, help America. So that's what we're doing. And at the end of the day, if you're helping a warfighter, shame on us if we're not thinking of our warfighter who's out in harm's way. Accelerate the development, we kind of talked about that. So if I break your device now, one that doesn't tarnish your name, which could cost you thousands of dollars in rebranding your device if a warfighter got it and they brand it as garbage. So if we catch it before that and say, hey, it's broke, go back, fix it, then bring it back to me, and then we sign off it's good, that saves you money. And then two, it's going to save you time. If you're getting these things fixed, what we've seen in a lot of iterations of our program is we'll say, hey, here's what's wrong with your device. They'll go back to the hotel room that night, tinker with it, and come back with a new product the next day. And then a lot of things that you don't think of, as you guys, not to put you guys in a box, but most of you probably have a scientific mind. One of the biggest things that we've seen almost at every event is someone hands me something and says, use it. Most operators wear gloves. Go to use it, and you start going like this, and nothing happens. Fix it. So things that you're not catching inside of your box. And then the best thing about our program, which differs from anything that's out there, I've done lots of research on different programs that are out there. The only one who remotely comes close to what we're doing is the Army. And they're doing a testing inside of a big exercise. Well, whenever a military is doing exercise, what are they trying to do? Achieve objectives for their soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, right? And that is the primary focus. So if a technology is hindering that, what do you think you're going to do with the technology? It's gone off to the side and the technology no longer exists. Ours is a complete shift to that. We are all about tailoring around your specific technology. If your technology is, we'll use Richie's technology of an air-cooled vest. If your technology is that, then I shouldn't have it on a horse to try to cool a horse. You're trying to cool the human body. So we will tailor it specifically around who that is. And then bring in those users, whether that's a pararescueman, whether that's a security forces member, whether that's an Army Joe. We are not in a box. We have no walls, which is the beauty of it. 100% tailored around what you need and what data points you want to collect. So how do we get these goals and how do we achieve that mission? What we do is, we've just introduced this. This is brand new. The Tech Warrior, which I'm going to talk about here momentarily, has been a solid foundation for us. That's been around since 2001. I've been involved with it since 2009. We used to run that event up in Fort Drum. I'm getting ahead of myself. But Tech Warrior has been around an established product. So what we have done was, how do we do this 2-week event? And we have all this success and people come out on fire. You know, it's just like we set them loose out of church. The spirit's in them. And hopefully we'll have different spirits here in a little bit when we go across the street. but they're on fire. And then 2 months later, that fire dwindles, and about 6 months later, there's maybe just a little bit of ember left. So let's do 365 days and just keep that burning. And not only set this man on fire, he turns, sets you on fire, and so on and so forth, and then we get that chain event, and next thing we know, we in this room have shaped the next war, wherever that is, with technology. So we do that with the Tech Warrior Enterprise, which was born 6 December of 2017. So we are still infants. Just like the Doolittle Center, you guys have moved. This place is still infancy, and marvelous to have this amount of folks in an event. So we are going through baby steps, but our steps are staying true to our foundation, the Tech Warrior, an event that's been sponsored by AFRL. A lot of participant comes out of AFRL. And then 2 new programs that we've introduced, the Tech Warrior Connect and the Tech Warrior Ops. Amazing slides. I'd like to take credit and say I made them, but I'd be lying to you. Our team, I am blessed to be the guy in front of you. There's an amazing group of folks that are watching the YouTube stream right now that have put this together, so I can't take any credit. I just get to be, unfortunately, the face for you guys, because it's not the prettiest of face. I get it. But let's get into how these programs work. So our foundation, 2001, obviously we had a terrible event happen that kind of caught us by surprise. And then, of course, we're going to war, which was 2 wars at once. How can we shape technologies to make sure that this war is winnable and save lives? Some of the devices that were coming out of, more so military devices, a 500-pound radio battery that lasts forever. If you've ever heard the term ounces equal pounds, a 500-pound battery is, no one's carrying that. I don't care if you're the strongest man in the world, you're not carrying a 500-pound battery just because it lasts long. So the lab decided we need something to educate our young scientists and engineers of how to create better products, in turn testing products. So Tech Warrior was born. So Tech Warrior did 2 things. One, it tested technology. While we were up at Fort Drum, if any of you are familiar with upstate New York, there's maybe a couple weeks that winter doesn't touch. It's a lot like Game of Thrones. Winter's always coming. We used to run this exercise June, July, and I'm not lying. If I'm lying, knock me down right now. They asked for our snow plan. Craziest thing ever, snow plan in July. So not a whole lot of technologies were coming up there, because I'm pretty sure if we surveyed the room, who wants to go to upstate New York to test your technology, you're probably going to say, I'll pass. What we were doing was we were more of a training, combat training scenarios that we were doing for the scientist and engineer, which was good, because what we had was we had folks go back to the lab, somehow, social media, that's why you got to be careful what you post, we'll take a picture. I actually had 6 different officers said that they had a picture of my mug. Why? Maybe they were infested with cockroaches or something. They put my picture up and said every time they would work on their project, they would look at my picture and specifically develop it for me. Probably should have started off with, I'm 20-year retired, just retired last year, did 20 years security forces in the Air Force. So I was out there. I've been in the combat. I don't tell you that to pat myself on the back, but to build the credibility of I was the war fighter. Wish I still could be, but I'm shaping the war on bigger scale. So I was the face that they were developing. So every time they would create something, they would think of, if I did a poor job, he's going to pay for it. And that was the beauty of the program. 2011-12 came around, sequestration hit a lot of programs that unfortunately are still on the shelf. Tech Warrior is one of them. We got shelved until 3 years ago, which, let me do my math real quick, that is 2015. 2015, through the efforts of Mr. David Shahady, who is a dual hat. Most of you probably are aware that he is involved in the SBIR program, but he was also the exercise director for Tech Warrior. He brought it back, partnered it up, and looking at a different model of getting SBIRs, small businesses, and testing technology. Flipping the training down of, yes, that we can still train folks and we can still give those scientists and engineers some training, but let's focus on testing the technology. Those folks, while that's great, training is awesome, love training. I did 7 years as a combat training instructor. That's beautiful, but there's folks that do that. Eglin used to could, and then there were some folks that said, no, we need one central point, but that'll put us on a tangent. Let's focus on the technologies, because I can train everyone in this room how to fight combat and teach you combat skills. But if I have each one of you develop a technology, you're shaping not only the next war, but the next war that's behind that. So we focus on that. So the big thing from a small business perspective of how Tech Warrior is so amazing, and Tech Warrior is coming up. So if you're interested right now, you're like, man, this sounds awesome. You already sold me. Good job for me. Pat myself on the back. We have open registration right now for our next Tech Warrior that's coming up September 18th through the 28th. It'll be hosted right in the lovely town of Fairborn, just outside of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. If you go on, we're on a bandit concrete plant. If you climb on top of our silos and you get a rock in the wind perfectly, you can hit the flight line of Wright-Patterson. We're centrally located. We're probably about 15, 20-minute drive, depending on traffic, to downtown Dayton and the 444 and the maker hubs and stuff that Ryan hit on this morning. So we are geographically centrally located to where you can touch all different things and do lots of stuff. So that registration is open right now. You can go to wsri.wright.edu, and right on the main page, you'll see a guy that's kind of, I don't know if he got hit with the infinity stone. He's kind of fading away. And it says registration. You'll click the registration, hit the drop-down tab of technology. There's also a sheet of technology, a one-pager that tells you some key dates of when you need charts and stuff. If you have questions about that, I will definitely, I'm around till tomorrow. So if you have questions, I'm sticking around until the last person leaves. Hit me up and say, hey, I want some information to help me register. Also, as Ryan hit this morning, the Junior Force Council, they are our main drivers this year. They are, for a lack of a better term, our Army men. They're going to be testing its technology. Some of the brightest minds, as Ryan told you this morning, these are going to be the folks that are going to be touching and playing and touching the technology and giving feedback. And these are the folks that are possibly working on their own technologies. So where you're going to see that this program is different from some of our other, you're going to hand them their device and they're going to say, hey, did you ever think about if you put 2 more gigawatts in the flux capacitor, you can actually get back to the future? There's a few people, that's my nerdy joke for the day. I just make stuff, this is all made up as we go. If you guys thought there was a plan for this, I'm glad I can fool you that way. So we're going to showcase your technology, obviously. I've already hit that. I think I beat it to death. We're going to provide you the opportunity to interact with those young minds. They could potentially give you one nugget that's going to set you light years ahead of where you are. It's 10 days full immersion. If you can't commit to 10 days, we ask that you commit to 3 days, which is our FTX capstone event. So during the 10 days, we do a lead up. We basically do a crawl, walk, run type, little bit of training for them to where we're integrating technology throughout. We let them get out there, kind of figure out how to be a combat troop. Then during our 3-day capstone FTX, training wheels off, no holds bar, and we run full immersion missions, full all out. And what we do, the beauty for you of introducing your technology into it is if it fails the first time, we'll run the same iteration with a completely different group to make sure that it wasn't just a fluke, so that we can get the data that you can say, yep, that was a failure, I need to tinker with my device. And then if you go to the room at night and fix it and bring it back, guess what? We can rerun those scenarios. So we make sure that you get as much data as you need to get that to the warfighter's hands. And then the best part about it is day 2 of our event, we open our door up for DV Day. Now keep in mind, DV Day is a lot different from what some of you are used to. DV is if my wife and son come out, they're a DV. If your family comes out, they're a DV. Any guest that comes into our building during that time frame is a DV. We take care of them. They're a distinguished visitor. They're a guest. We treat them like kings, queens, princes, and princesses. We take care of them. We give them a full tour of the facility, let them see some things, and introduce them to the technologies. But inside of that, there are some legit actual DVs. Sometimes we'll have folks just drop in. I think this year we're probably going to have some high-level folks from the Air Force drop in. I'm not going to drop any names, but very high level. Hopefully they're listening and accept our invite to come out. But you also have congressmen, mayors, full gamut of DVs, from my 11-year-old son, who better be doing his schoolwork right now and not watching this video, all the way up to high level of the Air Force. Go ahead and cue the video. If you guys clicked on the link that was associated with today's event, that was from 2016. This is the most updated one with some of the best operators in the business that give you their word of the program.
Training opportunities are here. This is a phenomenal training area with some great training opportunities. So being able to get put in this environment and do some of the things we got to do the last few days has been very good for us.
So Tech Warrior is actually a test bed for the latest and greatest technologies. We bring in some of the most advanced technologies available, and we try them out in as realistic environment as possible.
Put them in that mindset that's going to make our equipment better, make it better for the guys that are deployed. Anything we can do to make things easier, lighter, better, it's going to help us downrange.
I think it's young scientists developing technologies, taking something that's hard and making it simpler. Live a day in our life in our boots, and when they go back to their office, try to develop the technologies to make our life a little bit better.
Tech Warrior is an opportunity for us to actually bring scientists or different people that design technology out to the field so that they can actually get an experience of what the warfighter or the person that's going to be using their technology in a time of war actually goes through while they're using that technology.
Hey, sometimes things that look great on paper and sound great when the good idea fairy comes around, it doesn't work in the really real world, and I need to look at it from a different perspective, that it's not all just about ideas, but don't stop thinking, because those ideas are what make it better day in and day out for the troops downrange doing the job.
I would say definitely come. This is a great opportunity to test out your technologies, whatever they may be, to get great feedback and to move you into the next level, really.
We're developing a wearable system really monitoring dehydration, and Tech Warrior allows us to get that on 100 devices. So it gives us a lot of feedback about our technology.
I think the learning potential is tremendous, and the emerging technology allows us to deliver is almost limitless. With this one device, I can represent a multi-systems trauma patient, or I could represent a healthy patient.
This is a great venue for us to get a wide variety of potential users for our technology, to get their perspective. So we've brought out a live virtual and constructive simulation that supports medical training for pararescue.
Tech Warrior is an effort to try out new technologies for the warrior, where small business companies get to come and try out their products. We have engineers, intelligence, we have supply chain management people, acquisitions.
The best part of this is I'm able to get with other folks from different areas and different AFSCs. I'm surprised with the level and the intensity of the training and the exercise. I thought this was definitely going to be a little more laid back, but I'm happy that it's not. I'm happy that they're really testing us.
Well, I can be truthful in saying that we had a monumental success this year, and the only way that we can be more successful in the next year is to get more people and more support. And I know there are folks out there who can come and bring value to the table here, and we need them. And next year, we're ready for you. If you're out there and you're ready to become a warrior or a technology warrior, we're the place.
So make sure to show a video with David Shady in there so that no one tries any of you little folks with false advertisements. So you did hear him speak. But as you can see, there's some of our partners. It's just a small list of last year's. And when he said, if you're out there, he specifically was talking to you. And if you think I'm talking to a person on the left or your right, I'm not. I'm talking to you. If you have a technology that is specifically developed for the warfighter, you're doing yourself a disservice and the warfighter a disservice to not tie into this free, that's right, free, paid for services are paid for by the SBIR program. All you have to do is get yourself there, find a place to sleep, You can sleep in my office if you need to and feed yourself. Otherwise, once you break the threshold of my door, my services are free. All of this is free. Free. You know how much it costs to use our services? At least one person's paying attention. That's good. Thank you. Thank you for playing along. I appreciate that. So where do we differ? This was our foundation, just like building a house. You know, I tried building a house once in mud, and it didn't work so well. Big bad wolf came along and saw my house as sticks in the mud and blew it down. So we put a good foundation. The Tech Warrior found 3 years we had it out there at in Fairborn in the Dayton area, and huge success, which you'll hear at the end. One of our biggest success is one that we pulled, and I'm sure if you pull Richie off to the side, he'll tell you the amazing success he had just from 2 events. And we could duplicate that for everybody. I can help everyone in this room. I've yet to find, there's maybe one. There's one gentleman I was talking to. We've become very adept at, if you give me 10 pounds of stuff, I'll put it in a 5-pound bag. You give me a square and it's a circle hole, I'll shave down or I'll make a square and I will stuff it in there. We will get your technology tested and get it to the warfighter. So this was our foundation. So how do we do that? This was a 10-day exercise. How do I roll this out to set fire for 365 days a year? Well, I introduced 2 new programs. One is, the first one we're going to talk about is the Tech Warrior Connect. This is a one-on-one. You bring me your flin-flon, whatever device, and say, this is what I want. I'd like you to possibly get me some firefighters, maybe some EOD, maybe some security forces, or whoever you think your targeted user group is. And on top of that, sometimes, and I'm sure if you're honest and look in the mirror, sometimes we look at our devices that we're developing when we looked at the topic, and maybe it's a pararescue specific written topic, and that we go like this, and that's all we see is pararescuemen. We don't see security forces. We don't see EOD. We don't see local law enforcement, EMS. I think a lot of times when we use the word warfighter, we're thinking of the gentleman, like the colonel in the back wearing the uniform. Well, our first responders are warfighters. They're fighting a different war day in and day out. But we bring them in, whoever it is. We've got great partnerships. I mean, we have some of the most amazing friends that will drop what they're doing to come out and test the technology because they see the benefit of how it's going to help their friends. It's going to help the next set of warfighters. So specific one-on-one. You could call me up and say, hey, I'd like to come out in 2 weeks. The longer lead time you give me, the better I can clean my schedule up and deconflict so that I can give you one-on-one time and work and feedback. Can come anytime, can be as short or as long as you need. About 5 days is what we've seen in the average of the 3 that we've done. 1 to 2 days depending on what your technology is. But if you've got a technology to where you think you're going to run into some hiccups and can make tweaks, which is the beauty of having places like the Maker Hub right in our backyard of, if your device broke, we can go right over there, jump on a 3D printer, boom, they zip it up, we're done. You're back in the game. So if you have a device like that that you think can use multiple days, then come for multiple days. Short or as long. And again, do you know how much this costs to be involved in? Free. Services paid for by the Air Force SBIR office. Just get yourself there. I could tell you right now, to get from here to Dayton, you're looking at less than $1,500. And maybe a hotel is going to bump that up, but you could stay, you can sleep on my floor. So here's a little video about a little bit more about the Tech Connect.
The Air Force Small Business Innovation Research Small Business Technology Transfer Program has created a partnership with the Wright State Research Institute's National Center for Medical Readiness in Fairborn, Ohio, resulting in the expansion of the Tech Warrior exercise. The new Tech Warrior enterprise includes components that provide small businesses with multiple opportunities throughout the calendar year. One new component is Tech Warrior Connect. Tech Warrior Connect is a customized experience that teams subject matter experts and technology integration. This event provides an opportunity for small businesses to gather early feedback and perform simple testing of their technologies. Tech Warrior Connect events can include any combination of these 3 elements: domain expert consultation, network integration, or a fundamental test and demonstration based on a small business's requirements or needs. The domain expert consultation element is where small businesses receive access to subject matter experts from their intended user community, present their technology, and receive input. This can include demonstration of a prototype or simple explanation of design concepts. The network integration element allows small businesses to integrate technology functions into a complex network environment. Tech Warrior Enterprise Network engineers incorporate the technology with the National Center for Medical Readiness's secure network infrastructure and provide feedback and suggestions as bugs are worked out. And the fundamental test and demonstration element is where enterprise staff design and execute a simple test scenario for a small business's technology or prototype, allowing for collection of early data, allowing for failure, which accelerates fixes and changes that drive future development priorities. Any small business with an Air Force research and development contract, especially those involved in the Air Force Small Business Innovation Research and Small Business Technology Transfer Program, are invited to participate in the Tech Warrior Enterprise. Best of all, the events are free, as the investment from the Air Force covers the cost of the event. For more information, contact John Matecki at twenterprise@wright.edu to find out how your small business can participate in this opportunity.
So again, 2 key words in there. Free. You haven't gotten that message yet. Free and failure. Failure, sometimes we look at, Ryan brought it up this morning. You have to fail. You can't move forward without failing, okay? No one throws stuff. I know there's at least one person I saw in here that's got a Dallas Cowboy thing, so you may be a little bit angry. I'm an Eagles fan. How many years did our football team have to fail to finally put it together and win the Super Bowl? We just encourage you to fail once. Fail at this one thing, then find a different thing to fail at. Then find something different. Don't continue to fail at the same thing. Fail, fix it, move forward. Find something different to fail. Move forward. Just keep moving forward, right? Again, you might have picked up from Philadelphia, Rocky. That's how you win. It's not about how hard you get hit. It's about how hard you can get up and hit them back or something like that. It's misquoted because they'll hit me with copyright infringement and all kinds of stuff. But you got to keep moving forward, right? Apollo Creed didn't die from the Russian for his son not to come back and avenge him in November because he failed. Now he knows how to fix it. He's going to beat Ivan Drago's son. Guys, it's the end of the day. You got to laugh. They're only going to get worse if you don't. So, all right. So the next piece is a complete shift from the Tech Warrior experience. So Tech Warrior, remember, who's our key customer in there? Who's our participants that we're using? See who was paying attention. Scientists and engineers, right? So they're going to give you those gigawatt, flux capacitor, know all those big terms and stuff and all that scientific things that they need to sit me down and say, this is what they're talking about. This program is the Tech Warrior Ops. This is where we bring in folks like the security forces. We bring in the pararescuemen. We bring in the combat controllers. We bring in whoever. We bring in local law enforcement, special response team. We bring those end users who your product is intended to reach, and we let them give a different perspective. Because as an operator, again, you're in your lab using a touch screen and never possibly could think of operators across the entire spectrum wear some type of hand protection. Because gloves, you can't say gloves, it's not politically correct, so it's got to be hand protection. I told you, the jokes are only going to get worse unless you start laughing. So we place the technology in your intended end user group, or we get as close as possible. And then we provide you the opportunity to sit down. The one thing that we've learned, we've done one of these so far for 2 weeks. We've picked up, and a lot of it's amazing sitting back there of hearing folks talk. The one thing that we were missing that we're piecing together for our next event, which kicks off Monday, which is a little bit too late for anyone to register. We're doing a Tech Warrior Ops, is there are folks that don't know how to put together a proper quad chart. They're struggling on those proposals. We had one company tell us that they've submitted like 30 SBIR proposals and have only won 2. Either your product's really garbage or you can't write. So we're going to help. We need to be good stewards and help along in that process, because a lot of good products are falling off the radar because of small things. And then what we're doing, not only are we helping with the quad charts, there's probably, I bet just in this group, there's probably 1,000 different variants of them. What we're focusing on is a tech scout, which is from the major commands. So when they come in and they see a requirement, which we had happen in our last tech ops, there's a requirement for X that's being driven from the warfighter. You have X. They put you in contact with some folks, but in order for that to happen, you're supposed to have a certain paper and quad charts and everything written a certain way. So we were going to prep you for that so that if they come in, and maybe you're not a SBIR, you could just reach out and say, here's my stuff, expedite me to get on the GSA schedule, which we did for one of our technologies that had a patent agreement with AFRL. So accelerate it. Now they've gotten some investment to make their product a little bit better to go to mass market. We could potentially do that as long as you meet that requirement. So that is the Tech Warrior. The big difference is actual operators giving you feedback. You get to sit in a room with, if you're designing something for a police officer, Mom, I'll call you in a little bit, it's okay. If you're designing something for law enforcement, shouldn't you talk to a law enforcement agency? Show of hands, and you can't raise your hand, Richie. Who's actually had a product and interacted with their user? Very small number, but you not only get to sit down and talk to them, and we facilitate a working lunch to where you get to sit in the room with them and just talk life if you want, or you could talk of how we can better the product, because you'd be surprised. While I kind of knock myself a little bit and say I'm not the smartest fellow a lot, I've got some really good ideas that if you put your technology in my hand, along with all those folks that were in the video, they could really help develop your product. And then along with our Junior Force Council, your product can go a place that you never even intended. You could walk through our doors and be like, oh, I don't even know if this is my product anymore. Do I owe you money? And the answer is no, because it's sooner or later, everyone's just going to say free together. Otherwise, we're never going to make it over to the pub. So, great explanation. Thank you. I appreciate that. But just like the last video, did a good job. Let's see if it'll do it again. Click. Click. Yes.
The Air Force Small Business Innovation Research Small Business Technology Transfer Program has created a partnership with the Wright State Research Institute's National Center for Medical Readiness in Fairborn, Ohio, resulting in the Tech Warrior Enterprise. The Tech Warrior Enterprise includes components that provide small businesses with multiple opportunities throughout the calendar year. One component is Tech Warrior Ops. Tech Warrior Ops provides an opportunity for small businesses to gain early feedback from warfighters and first responders, and is designed to place evolving technologies in the hands of the actual user during training and exercise scenarios, simulating more rigorous operational use. Tech Warrior Ops allows the end users to provide valuable feedback to the small businesses regarding potential solutions to any challenges encountered. This collaboration accelerates the time it takes to formulate and execute improvements to the emerging technology. Tech Warrior Ops events can include any combination of these four elements: operator-centric environment, joint approach, cooperative simulation, or operator exposure based on the small business's objectives. The operator-centric environment element is where small businesses demonstrate their technologies with their target audience. The operators perform tasks as they would in the field, offering a rare glimpse into the rigors of combat or emergency response conditions. The joint approach element allows military as well as civilian operators to be included in the events. This enables technology demonstration across a broader market space. The cooperative simulation element provides a dual purpose. While operators conduct their training, they agree to integrate technologies inside their scenarios. A blend of free play and scripted scenarios allows for modifications that meet specific, just-in-time technology demonstration needs. The operator exposure element provides SBIR STTR businesses one-on-one follow-up time with the operators, where they can gather specific data and ask questions. Any small business with an Air Force research and development contract, especially those involved in the Air Force Small Business Innovation Research and Small Business Technology Transfer Program, are invited to participate in the Tech Warrior Enterprise. Best of all, these events are free, as the investment from the Air Force covers the cost of the event. Businesses are only responsible for their travel and related expenses. For more information, contact John Matecki at twenterprise@wright.edu to find out how your small business can participate in this opportunity.
So that's the enterprise we're going to get into. How do we support that? One thing that's being publicly released for the first time today, officially, when you participate in our event, if you meet certain requirements and have a SBIR, those requirements, I'm not 100% sure what they are, but I know they're a list from here to the wall. There is a chance if you meet those, you're going to be like Happy Gilmore, and we're going to present you with a big old check, and you could potentially walk out of our site with $1.5 million. But you have to be a SBIR and have met all the qualifications. Once we know what those are and we can publicly release all of the requirements, we'll get those out. But there is a potential. You'll come in, you'll do your testing, and then we will do a legit Shark Tank. We got Kevin O'Leary signed up. The other guy, I can't remember, the QVC person, myself, Mr. David Chahady. We're going to sit there and we're going to ask, if I gave you 750 or 1.5, what are you going to do with it? And if you say, I'm going over to, what's that, props, propellers, what's the pub we're going to? There's a good chance we'll write you a $2 million check. No, but if you meet all of the requirements, we're going to start handing out funds because we were blessed with a bunch of extra money, and we're giving it to the warfighter-centric stuff. So if you want more details, please make sure you email me, and once I find out what all those requirements are, talk to the legal team and square them up. We'll get you, and if you think you qualify, then let's write you a big old check. I want the big checks too. I want a smile, thumbs up, and all that stuff. So, are there any questions? If there are questions, I am not going to acknowledge you or talk to you because this lady has done a great job of coming around, handing out the microphone, but most of you haven't used it. So, will not acknowledge anyone until they have the microphone, and the gentleman in the back can fire it up so that, and the only reason I'm doing this is because I know the folks that are supposed to be teaching air camp right now are sitting in a classroom back at the National Center for Medical Readiness, so they can hear your question, and then they can tell me I answered it wrong or right. So, you have a question? Okay, hold on one second.
All right, and once again, please just introduce yourself as well so that those folks that are watching understand who is
And I like your shirt. Are you from Canada?
Hey.
Do you know why you guys always say A?
No.
How do you spell Canada?
A.
C-A-N-A-D-A. My wife's from Manitoba.
All right.
I'm going to catch from once done. Go ahead, sir.
I have a quick question.
Who are you?
Bogdan Udrea from Visitors Technologies in Daytona Beach, Florida. Yeah. So I'm interested in the Tech Warrior Connect. Do we have to have an active SBIR, STTR with the Air Force or not?
You do not.
Not. The second question, it's about fundamental test and demonstration. We have a sensor about the fist size that we like to test on a shooting range.
So I don't say no. It's very hard.
Okay.
God, I hope my son's not watching right now. When it comes to my job, I try not to say no. There are some challenges with that as far as procuring rounds.
Okay.
That we may offset to you. So when free, it's not 100% free. If you say my technology needs an air balloon with trained circus monkeys and a bear to rappel out of it, we're going to tell you to at least get the air balloon and the circus monkeys and the bear. So something like that, we would say, if you got us rounds and we could procure a range, we could do it.
Okay.
It's not it'd be a challenge, but yes, we could do it.
Okay.
There was a couple other questions over.
There's so many
now. Glenn Johnson, HexPoint Technology and Binergy Incorporated. I think to follow on there, to clarify who's eligible to participate. Now, in both of the videos, it said active SBIR, and what I heard you say earlier, that it was open to former SBIR or other small businesses as well.
Correct. That is correct. So We are paid for and funded by the SBIR. We have yet to figure out what our cap of technologies is. And I don't think we have one, per se. Now, if everyone signs up, I'm going to be in a world of hurt. I'll eat my words, but we will find a way to get every technology integrated. So if we came to the situation where we found that we set boundaries of I can only have 20 technologies out and 20 SBIRs signed up, we'd have to close the door to the non-SBIRs. But right now, there is no ceiling. So yes, if the lights are on, it didn't matter if one person showed up today or the whole place was full, the event was happening. We're running the same thing. We're putting it on. If you've got a warfighter-centric device, bring it. Let's do the warfighter right. That is. So I want to be crystal clear. I work with the SBIR folks. My main focus is to test technologies, and I am all about the warfighter. All that finance stuff I push off to the team. All those pretty slides and everything, I push off to the team. I want to make sure that the warfighter, who I still have friends who are out there sitting in places that are serious, not giving away where he is, but there are some folks that are out there that are very near and dear to me, and I couldn't sleep at night if I knew that I didn't do the best. So if you got a product that's going to change his and her life, and I don't test it, shame on me. So the answer, that was a really long, I am running for office. That was a really long answer. Yes, you can come. If you don't have a SBIR, you have a past SBIR, part of that funding might be resurrecting. I'll go in the valley of death because I'm the baddest beep in the valley. And we're going to start pulling some of those SBIRs that could meet that requirement that there's a warfighter need for. We might breathe life into them and hand them $1.5 million. Okay. So yes, welcome to all. As long as you have a warfighter-centric device. Obviously, I can't test out airplanes and stuff. We can fly drones. There is a limit to what we can do, but we do have partners that potentially could test.
Right. Well, I mean, if you're giving me money, I'll move to your district. That sounds good, if wherever you're running.
Awesome.
Okay. Perfect.
If your product qualifies, we'd love to. The gentleman behind you had a question.
Richard Thompson, CFD Research. So what's the threshold for being selected? We put in an application. When is the applications due for this next September round?
Now, the closeout, I want to say we're closing it out, top of my head, don't hold me to it, is August 17th-ish. So this way, it's a month before the event starts. It gives us a chance to start putting your product in place. And if I had to guess, you have a hearing device, earphones, that I'm already aware of and that you should test, and it didn't line up last time. See, I've got a memory. It's not a good one, but I'm really digging a hole with the folks watching at home. But yes, come out, hit me up, sign up. Application's open now. So basically, you put in an application, real simple. It'll ask for your topic number if you are a SBIR, so that we can start doing our homework of, do you meet some of the requirements to get funded? And then we can see you're good to go, and then you'll get a welcome package, and you're basically in. So far, we haven't turned anyone away as of yet.
And how much does it cost?
What does that cost? Before I end it, we're all going to say free together. All right? Any other questions? Okay, you got a couple in the back. You guys could ask it simultaneously. See how good I really am. Don't forget to introduce yourself.
Kelly Reeser, I'm with Florida West Economic Development Alliance in Pensacola. And I'm curious, is it technologies for the warfighter only in combat scenarios, or is it training of the warfighter to prepare for combat?
All the above.
Okay.
As long as it's going to enhance that warfighter in some form, fashion, yes. If it's to prepare them in the training, or it's, even if it's something that's going to keep them safe here. I mean, we've been at war with drugs and literacy for as long as probably everyone in this room has been alive. So it fits in a war. It's just not the gun war, but yes.
Have there been any scenarios where it's maybe for the return from war, PTSD type, post-war?
Haven't as of yet, but
would you be open to that?
There's a few screws loose up here that I could be your test bed. But yes, definitely anything that's going to get the warfighter ready, help the warfighter when they're in the war, and help them get back to the war quick, yes. Yeah, anything that's going to help out the warfighter, any shape, form. Like I said, no is a really hard word, especially since it's paid to test the technology. We'll find a way. Again, I'll take 10 pounds and I'll fit it in that 5-pound bag.
Richie Pretty, Carver Scientific. Great time we had up there. It was wonderful. We went to both the Connect and then the Ops Warrior event, and it was very, very helpful. I can't say enough about it because we actually got to spend time one-on-one talking to the end users, the EOD guys, the SWAT guys, you know, some others. I mean, it was just really an awesome event, so I really congratulate you on it. Having said that, I want to ask you, can I go back again?
Yes.
Okay. And that's how
registration's open September. Be there.
And it's how much?
It is how much? Free. All right, we're getting there, almost.
Anyway, it was a great event. I encourage everybody to go.
Yeah. See, so that just validates, you know, I'll sell ice to Eskimos, especially since one of my favorite movies is Frozen. I'm good. I'll sell that. I just got to let it go. But you hear from one of our SBIRs directly of the success that he had. Any other questions before we move on up front? See, this is how it was supposed to go. Microphone,
Getting my
ask the
steps
question.
in. Yeah, it's good. So.
Thank you. Johnny Godowski, Exobotics from Pensacola, building fast-running robots and exoskeletons. I just want to know, I'm so excited about this. If I get an SBIR funding or some funding from a source that's not necessarily the Air Force, but the project can have such a mission,
yes.
Can I bring it to you?
Yes. So next week, I've got Army SBIRs coming out. It does not, SBIR, period, is our primary. So if you've got an Army, Navy, doesn't matter. But we're open to all. If you are a small business and are developing something for the warfighter, you come and it will cost you free. We're getting there. We're getting there. We're getting there. Any other questions before we move on? And look, there are, you know, if you act now, free shipping also. No, it's not. There's no catch. There's no gimmick. There's been a check. It was a big check, too. Yeah, I had never seen it. It went straight into our finance. Services are paid for. All you have to do is get yourself there, house yourself, and feed yourself. And housing yourself and feeding yourself are even optional. You can sleep in a car and eat ramen noodles, peanut butter and jelly, whatever. It's really that simple. No other questions about the events? All right, let's move on. What are our capabilities and how do we support that vision at the National Center for Medical Readiness, which is where my office is located? So there's our domain expertise. Our site is Calamityville, so you can just imagine the controlled chaos that is in our backyard. We sit on 53 acres of property. The beauty of what we have is we have classrooms that have audio-visual of university grade. So we have controlled environments where we can be indoors, and you walk 10 feet, you're outside in our playground. We also have, excuse me, I just hit puberty there for a second. We also, at least one person left. We also have a massive warehouse. So let's say you're coming out in September and you have something that you need to ship to us mid-August. We have the ability to put it in our warehouse, keep it safe and secure. So we have lots, there's a place, and they will sue me if they hear. There's a place that's northeast of here, kind of in the center of the state. That's a magical kingdom. That's basically what we have in our backyard, is we are only limited by our imagination of what we can do there. And we have all these domain expertise. We have a Rolodex of folks who will come and support us to help test technology. Some of you are thinking and haven't asked, what's in it for them? Well, again, the magic word of the day is free. They come out. To use our site would have a cost associated with it. A couple of $100, if not more. They come out. They train for free. In turn, the payment is you have to interact and test and provide feedback to the technologists. To the point to where we've had an event to where folks weren't so inclined to do that, they were this close to being kicked off of the site. So if you want the training, fine, it's free. In turn, you have to pay the bill of testing your technology and providing feedback. So that's what's in it for them. So that's our domain expertise. Our technical expertise, again, we've got folks, years and years of knowledge, and if we don't have it, it's something that you need and we've got a contact, we'll bring them in. You know, we put together scenarios. So if you say my device needs to do X, Y, and Z, I will sit down and try to figure out X, Y, and Z, and A, B, and C, and if you come back and be like, totally missed the mark, throw it away, we'll start over. So we try to do most of the legwork, so you just come out, put your device in, and collect data. This means something to someone, I'm sure. What it means to me is we've got high-tech cameras all around our facility that we can use for AARs, after-action reports. We can record, show them afterwards, release them out and stuff. We've got a massive Wi-Fi capabilities. So basically, you come in, you throw your laptop down, you hit our network, you're good to go. It's that simple. There's no passwords, there's no keys, codes. You come in the door, we treat you like your family. So you come in, no cost, 100%, all right, free. Then you just start turning data. It's literally that simple. I know there's some of you like there's no possible way. I promise you, and Richie can testify, get yourself there, get your product there, and we do the rest. So some of the benefits of what we have is we have some underground tunnels. It would not be free for me to go down there because I'm afraid of a lot of things, spiders, my spouse, my son some days. No, I'm not afraid of him. I'm not going down there, but if that's something that your technology needs, we've got it. We've got quite a few. We're in a bandit cement plant. So this picture at the top right is on top of our silos, and here's the silos down on the bottom. So we are an industrial facility. So what you think of an abandoned cement plant is exactly what we have. And then we have a huge 53-acre piece of property. And then if we needed to, we can expand up to almost 200 acres of using some wetlands, woodlands, but there's not really, we haven't really found a huge benefit for that as of yet. We have vehicle crashes. We're partnered with a local company that does some rescues, different jaws of life. So we've got different crashed vehicles out there that we could bring to bear if need be, if that's something your technology needed. We already talked about the industrial building. We have some woods. It's not a forest, but we do have some woods. We have some grassy area. We have some concrete, urban. We hit basically all realms of whatever you would want. Again, it goes back to that place that's not too far from here. Our imagination is the limit. We're looking to expand, adding some things that you may need, trying to put in a small village. So we're working, acquiring that right now. So we're going to continue to expand to meet your needs as a technology. I've already slightly touched on 3 classrooms, one of which is being occupied right now as they're streaming this event, watching. They should be getting ready to go out. Actually, they should be teaching right now. Hopefully they're not listening. Otherwise, there's a bunch of young men and women from air camp sitting around watching this, which would be good too. But we have 3 classrooms, so we can do environments such as this with PowerPoint, videos, climate control if need be. And then we have open workspaces, some office space. We have one classroom that's just wide open that we can configure however need be. We've put in surveillance in there to where we had a team working off of computers across a desk the length of this. So whatever that canvas is, that's a blank canvas that we can go in there and set up as need be. So again, you heard from Richie in the back. Thank you for that, those kind words, Richie. But one of our biggest success that's been with us since we've brought this back to life is Ekron Systems. They're a SBIR company that's out of Cincinnati, Ohio. They've been part of, so far, all of our events, and I'll let them tell you the success. This is from our Tech Warrior Ops that we just hosted in April.
At Ekron Systems, we developed sweat sensors that improve the health, safety, and wellness of individuals. What we brought here today is the commercial design of our first generation product. which monitors individuals for dehydration in situations where heat stress is a significant issue. What we've done before is we've come with earlier versions of the product, put it on individuals, got real-world feedback, and we're able to quickly iterate based on that feedback and improve the product. And we're here today to evaluate the latest generation of that and get real-world user feedback. We expect to be in beta rollout in the middle of the summer, this summer, and full commercial rollout in the fall of this year. And a lot of that is based on feedback that we got here at TechWarrior. TechWarrior is a great vehicle for small companies like Ekron to come in, get that end user feedback in applications that we can't possibly set up individually back at the office. So it really comes out in situations where it's a very rough environment. We can survive here, we can survive out in the real world. It's great. I mean, the staff is fantastic to work with, both before, during, and after. So we've got a great relationship, and they make sure that companies like ours have a very positive experience when they're out here.
That's just one of 30, 40 companies that have participated. So how the collect and sweat is their main focus. How they did that previously, they have a small broom closet that had a treadmill and a bicycle, and they had some heaters, and they would crank the heaters up, and just folks would be on their lunch break, wanting to get a workout in, would go in, throw devices on, and run and collect sweat. We gave them so much data. I believe the data that they collected from our one event probably would take them years inside their office, but just to run that data, I think they were up to almost 2 weeks worth of man hours of running it through their system and stuff that they never could have got in their office. And we could do that for anyone. So I am ahead of schedule, which is always a good thing because it's the end of the day. But I'm sure there's some last minute questions. This is my contact information. I do have some handouts that are out in the somewhere out there. Just look for a folder that looks like it's literally on fire because it actually, when you touch it, you might actually get burned. So there's 4 handouts in there, one about the overall enterprise, and then one for each one of the events. My business card's in there. If you don't want a folder and just want a business card, please see me. That is my contact information. You can hit either one of those emails. Obviously, the john.matecki goes directly to me. The enterprise one will go to one of 3 people, and we'll answer any questions. So turn the floor over to you. Are there any questions, comments, concerns, complaints? Moral cries of outrage, screaming babies, cats and dogs living together. Got one right there.
Do you have any information on what the state of the art is as far as network connection in the battlefield? You know,
as far as networking, like Wi-Fi?
Yeah, I mean, the people in the field being able to connect to, let's say, technical support back in a headquarters environment.
Limited, depending on where you are. So a place like Kuwait has Wi-Fi throughout almost their entire base. And then obviously the key places, the headquarters, staff, the control centers, they obviously have the ability to reach back capabilities. But if you go to a place like Afghanistan, depending on where you're at, some places in the living quarters had Wi-Fi that you had to pay for, which was crappy at best. But when they're out around the flight line and that stuff, zero. There's zero connectivity in some of those folks in areas.
Some sort of network access that operated remotely, right?
Yes. So that's part of the struggle of the infrastructure is not always there. And that's kind of what we can duplicate of if your device is needing Wi-Fi or you want to work in a Wi-Fi denied, we'll go in and unplug it. We'll get a lot of comments, but we can produce and try to replicate, or we can go down the road to where there is no Wi-Fi. And then you're just as if you were in the middle of nowhere, Afghanistan or Syria or Iraq or wherever. Does that answer your question? Was there another hand? I thought I saw another hand. No? No other questions?
I think we're mostly wondering how much it costs.
It is. Free. We got it. We almost got it. So yes, it is free with the potential of not only coming for free, but walking away if your SBIR qualifies with some funding, which is amazing. I mean, how can you not potentially look into doing that? I mean, we'll take technologies, and you don't have to take my word for it. You heard it from the video. You heard it from Richie. I mean, we're just putting technologies in the warfighter's hands. And that's the end goal, is, you know, get your product accelerated to get to the warfighter, which saves you money, saves taxpayers money, betters our warfighter. We win, continue to dominate, even though we are back-to-back World War champions. If there's another one, let's hope that the technology shapes it, and we can, you know, the end of the day, we don't want to lose any life, whether it's, you know, one of ours or part of our coalition force. If a technology can save someone's life, then let's get that technology to those warfighters. Last call for questions. I'm going to turn it into a pumpkin once I turn it over. See, and you can always draw one out, always. You just got to keep casting. That fish is there somewhere.
Thank you. Johnny Godowski with Exobotics again. Maybe I missed it. Maybe it's free, and I just need to know that. But I got your contact information on the right. What is the difference between what you focus on and what Tech Warrior Enterprise focuses on? Why would I contact either?
The only difference is this is an org email, so
Okay.
that goes to 3 people. So if you were to email that right now, obviously I don't have my phone on it, someone could see that email back in the office.
For its continuity then.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
it's really
so
all
folks that
you.
are inside part of the enterprise see that email. Now,
Okay.
this one goes directly to me, that only I see. So like if you think this was the worst briefing ever and you want to call me all kinds of bad names, send that to the John.Matecki one, all right? So this way I just see it. So any other questions? So one thing before I turn it back over to the staff, I think we've neglected to congratulate the staff and thank them for putting together this entire event. All the folks see if I was paying attention, Golf Stream, was that who paid for lunch?
Gulf Stream, or Gulf Power.
Yeah, I was close. Stream Power, you know, that's a technology. If you get a stream going, you can generate power. So join me in thanking them with a round of applause, please. I will be around. I'll be over props, propellers. I don't know, wherever we're going after this, I'll be there. So if you have one-on-one questions, please, you know, if you thought this was a good briefing, if you thought I'm a moron, please come tell me. I have no feelings. I lost those in '97 when I put my hand up and enlisted. So without any further ado, I'll turn it back over.
Thank you so much, John. And one more round of applause for John and for all our speakers today. Thank you so much. Really quickly, before I turn it over to Lori Moncrief, our Executive Director over at DefenseWERX, for kind of some closing remarks, I wanted to remind you, as John mentioned multiple times, right after this, I know a lot of you have a lot of questions for each other. There's a lot of networking, I think, still to be done. We are all going to go over to Props, which is the brewery, a few doors down. You can't really miss it if you just turn right and follow the noise. We'll be joining there. There will be a space for us if you walk in, turn right, and kind of go up the little elevated platform area that is all reserved for all of us. It's reserved really as long as you want to be there. It's a no-host bar, but it's just an opportunity for us to continue to network and mingle a little bit. My other thing is that we at the Doolittle Institute hold something similar to this, maybe not quite the scope that you saw today, once a month, and it's kind of part of our Think Thursday event series. And next month for Think Thursdays, we will have something to the effect that you saw this morning, which was Donuts with DI. So before we started, we kind of had just donuts and coffee and mingling. A lot of AFRL scientists and researchers were here. So you'll have an opportunity if you come to that. Next month, it is on August 16th. So in the morning, we have that sort of mingle donuts interaction. And then in the afternoon, we have a speaker series. And then we usually follow that with another happy hour, usually hosted here, where we kind of cater it more to a beer tasting session. You learn a little bit about the brewer who comes, and they talk a little bit about about the beer, another opportunity to mingle and get to know one another. So this is not your last chance to come here and use the Doolittle Institute to network and mingle and get to understand a little bit more about AFRL RW specifically. So just a little reminder about that, and we'll have flyers when you go over to props after this. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Lori Moncrief for closing remarks.
I don't have my glasses on. Is it this button to advance? Okay. Thanks again, everybody, for coming. And I also want to thank the team led by Carolyn at Doolittle Institute, because you guys have done a great job today. And I want to take a few minutes to introduce Colonel Haas, the Director of AFRL Munitions. And we need to thank him for his leadership and for supporting everything we do here. We are so fortunate to have such a great base in our community.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you, all of you, for coming out today. I was really encouraged with the showing from all of you, and I hope you found this useful. We've been excited about Doolittle's and DefenseWERX new facility here and the opportunity to do some events like this. I hear from time to time from small business folks of, hey, I got this great idea, but I don't know how to connect in with the lab or with the military, and so hopefully this opened some ideas or reinforced some other avenues perhaps that you can reach out to AFRL and the Air Force, or even across the DoD community. We have those connections in to point you in the right spot if it's not us, and so we enjoy partnering, especially with small businesses, of the some of those new ideas that folks have, and the ability to take that and further development into a capability that we can get into the hands of our warfighters. That's actually of course, the ultimate goal of taking these good ideas to either help our folks get ready for putting the hurt on others, protecting them in that environment, and bringing them home safely. And so the more ideas and better things that we can do to provide that capability, we're excited to go off and look at that. And so some of the arrangements we have with the Doolittle Institute and then within the Air Force Research Labs construct gives us a little more flexibility than in some other areas within the government, and we're continuing to try and find other ways that we can do even better with that. You heard some thoughts there with kind of the Tech Warrior construct and I'll say Shark Tank. I'm probably not supposed to say that. It's probably a trademark term or something. But that concept of trying to more rapidly, even besides the SBIR and STTR kind of process, but some quicker, smaller kill type of things to kind of whet our appetite on the government side, as well as better investigation of potential type of things. So. Thank you so much. Thank you, Doolittle, for hosting this, and hopefully you made some good connections here, or at least have some ideas of better points of contact that you can take advantage of for your ideas. So thank you so much.
So I'm the only thing standing between you and beer. I'm in big trouble, huh? Oh, it did work. So at DefenseWERX, we view challenges as opportunities. And I think that's really important to note is, you know, you can overcome anything, and there's always a solution if you work hard enough. And we've got a great team, as you've seen here today, and at all our locations, to help you with those challenges. So I just kind of wanted to introduce DefenseWERX. I think a lot of folks don't fully understand what we do and how we're organized. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. We are funded through partnership intermediaries agreements. We're headquartered clearly here. And I think I cleared up some of the confusion that we have other locations. Those facility names are different, however, we're one company. Tampa, Montgomery, we also have a contract with OSD out of the Secretary of Defense, IBAS, which is Industrial Base Analysis Sustainment. So a lot of different programs going on. We're launching across the joint environment and region, and neutral facilitator and connector, which is really important to note. Our mission and vision is, again, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but to help the warfighter. And that's our goal in every product that we look at. We're trying to figure out a way to accelerate that and connect with the warfighter. So under our agreements, and not all our agreements are the same, but they're very similar. So technology transfer, getting technology to the warfighter, tech transfer, getting it to industry. We also do STEM, workforce development, and build innovation collaboration environments. So we look at who all's out in that community that can help us accelerate those technologies. And then in some of the locations, we do concept prototyping. We don't do that as much here, but every customer just has a different kind of flavor. So in some locations, we do more prototyping. This is how we view our ecosystem. Not going to get into details, but just a graphic that says we really try to reach out, and at each of our hubs we do the same, and then we interconnect between them. So why an intermediary? We focus on the non-traditional enterprises. We try to emulate small private business by moving quickly. We systematically address business barriers. A lot of us that work here have been in your shoes, so we get exactly the barriers and problems. We can act quickly and proactively because of our contracting mechanism. It allows us to do that, and also because of the support we have from our customers. I mean, they're encouraging us to bring the solutions to them, and we're focused on results. So barriers removed, we remove. Funding, we're working on a lot of programs to connect with VCs. We're working with a crowdsourcing company. You can't do anything unless you've got the funding to move forward. The workforce, we do a lot of STEM education, current, future. Without the workforce, all our companies are in trouble. We're really struggling with that in this country. Connection to demand, we can bring the connection to DoD, cross the Joint Command. We're also working on trying to broaden and connect to commercial markets, because a lot of funders don't like to fund technologies that are just based on military. And then the last one is product development with an ROI. So this is kind of how we view technology as it goes through the different channels. And we see ourselves in this latter phase more so, but we're also looking at identifying those partners that can do those earlier stage pieces. So why do we care about all of this? As stated in the 218 NDAA, security environment is affected by rapid technology advancements. A strong responsive R&D enterprise has always been the backbone. All these statements and the whole NDAA 2018 heavily focuses the need for innovation and technology. So what is innovation? Innovation is all about the people and thrives within a diverse group who agree to cooperate and are not afraid of status quo. Innovation predominantly resides within small businesses. 13 times more patents per employee with small business than large. Small businesses are the innovators. And they're built to execute and accelerate and do things much more quickly, which makes them great innovators. So, characteristics. Innovation distinguishes leaders from followers. And in my experience as a small business and as an innovator, the hardest thing about innovation is a lot of times you can see it. You can see how what you have is the solution, but the trick is trying to convince everybody else that that product that you have is a great solution. And you have to remember, there is no innovation without failure. It's challenging to continue, but that's exactly what you need to do. And hopefully we can help make that a little bit easier. So we have an upcoming project. It's yet to be outlined completely with OSD, but we're hoping to roll it out in the near term to select some technologies and help move those forward. And with that, I want to show a little video, if I could, from an event we just recently had in Las Vegas.
Hi, I'm Katarina, and we are live at the AFRL Fusion Experience in Las Vegas, Nevada. 187 companies submitted their solutions to a big challenge in the Air Force, and that is perimeter security.
We have exhibitors presenting their ideas to enhance perimeter security. So then when you add all these together, where we do bring together the business community, the investment community, the Air Force, and then a whole bunch of exhibitors to an event. So we hope that all of you will get something from this event.
60 companies made it here today, and they're exhibiting their amazing technologies. These companies include everyone from academia, small businesses, entrepreneurs, and everything in between.
We are going to be selecting up to 10 teams that we'll be inviting back to another event that we're going to hold at our Vegas hub to see if we can actually find some contracts and fast track some contracts for people.
So what is AFRL? What is it that we're trying to accomplish? We are a fusion of capabilities that connects innovators and accelerates results. This is your chance, whether through business, whether through military, whether through academics, to tap into ultimately a network of over 600,000 officers, enlisted civilians, who want to innovate.
AFRL in many ways is trying to be a little bit of that kind of innovation incubator, try and identify new potential concepts, work with entrepreneurs, work with businesses, to really try and see what we can do different.
You have to continue to evolve and adapt to stay around. Darwin said it's not the fastest or the strongest survives, it's the one that are most adaptable to change. And I think, the work that you guys are doing with AFRL shows that even in the military, this is something that you're thinking about. How can you think about yourself as somebody who creates a culture of innovation that you really empower others to make great innovations?
Culture is that unseen system upon which everything works, right? So when your culture is well articulated, everything works smoothly. So what we were able to do was sort of allow people to have a conversation with their colleagues that they could otherwise never have about changing the world.
How do we drive greater innovation in the Air Force? Fortunately for all of us, it comes down to you. The history of human performance suggests that people are amazing creators and innovators if we can just put the right processes in place. But at the end of the day, with any technology out there, human beings, if they have enough time to cultivate and think about it, can do something pretty amazing.
We talk a lot about innovation, so what is it? Well, I have to tell you, it's all about the people. It's all about the people, and it thrives in a diverse environment with a diverse group of people who are willing to work together and collaborate and are not afraid to challenge the status quo. And I have to tell you guys, I was really impressed with the way that you guys were willing to collaborate. Innovation distinguishes between leaders and followers, and it's clear to me that we have leaders in this hall. You guys did a great job.
So this is how you start the change in what you do. Growth is already there. We just have to go uncover it.
This is a lesson that I want everybody to know, that the future is malleable.
Sometimes finding the simple and being able to rapidly pivot are the ingredients that we hope you find not only in this fusion event, but in our ability to solve our nation's defense problems and technologies of the future. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being a part of this journey with us. So with that, I appreciate you guys. Have a great night.
Actually, I'm just going to finish with this slide. Innovation occurs at the intersection of dynamic people in distinctive places with unique challenges. And the last thing I want to say is anybody thirsty? Thanks again, you guys.
All right, and again, like I said, we're wrapping up. We are moving over to props, which is out the door to the right. Feel free to mingle in here a little bit, but like she said, I'm thirsty, so that's where I'll be. So thank you, everyone.